Aaron,
somebody told him he had...
We're just hypocrites, okay? We're just hypocrites.
There you go. Fair enough.
That's really what the fans want to hear.
Welcome to Behind the Sins, presented by CinemaSins.
Welcome to Behind the Sins, a weekly look at everything going on inside the world of CinemaSins. I'm Aaron Dicer, and I'm joined as always by Jonathan Watkins.
Hello.
And Danae Hughes.
Still here.
We write for CinemaSins, TV Sins, and do various other things inside the CinemaSins universe as well. And we are joined as well today by one of the A-Team. Please welcome, it's Chris Atkinson.
Hey, yeah, what's up?
Well, you know...
Aaron, I got to tell you, at the top of this podcast, even though this is Sift Pop related,
Oh, okay.
I am very, very, very upset at my performance in Summer Some Game.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, me too.
I'll tell you what happened. John Wick 3 is what happened. If I had thought that John Wick 3 would have been that big of a hit, I do pretty good research on these things before the summer hits, and I'm like, John Wick 2 did like 80 million or something like that. I was like, is even if it increases its business, is it going to be in the top 10? And I considered it no, so I put it in the like sort of the hedging part of it.
Yeah, the dark horse.
And so then it comes out and it does gangbusters, and and it sort of wrecked all of what I thought would happen after that, because this summer was like a bunch of movies. I was like, man, I don't think they're going to do anything, but they could very well be in the top 10.
It was a crazy summer, and I'm right there with you. I research as well, and the two things I think that hurt most people were John Wick performing so much better than expected, and Men in Black International not showing up at all.
Well, I was very happy to not have that anywhere sniffing on my list.
I was pretty sure that was not going to make any money.
If you don't know what Chris is talking about, the other pop culture podcast I do, Sif Pop, does a game over the summer where you predict the outcome of the box office. And it ended up, we have a category called Gurus, which are special guests on the podcast who are supposed to know more about movies. But by the way, the highest guru came in like 40th place this year. That's how crazy it was.
Are you talking about me?
No, you came in last in the Gurus. That's okay.
I tried. I really did. I thought about it for a whole 20 minutes before
my co-host on Sif Pop, Andrew, only had 2 more points than you did. So
no. Okay, that makes me feel pretty good.
It was a weird summer, but it was funny because of the Gurus, we had the winner, who's from a podcast called the Horrible Movie Podcast, and then he beat me by 1. I came in second in the Gurus. I beat Jeremy by 1. He came in third in the Gurus, and Jeremy beat Chris by 1, who came in fourth in the Gurus. So it was like that CinemaSins crew, like, bam, 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 right there at the top. So,
but I was that's just fourth in Gurus, but like what, 50th overall?
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah, because it is just insane. Like I was really happy about my top 2 picks. I was pretty sure about that, but then like it was hard to figure out, would Spider-Man beat Toy Story? And I thought. I thought about it for a while, and I was like, man, surely people will be tired of Toy Story, and people will still be riding that Marvel wave after Endgame, and that will make them flip-flop. So I had Spider-Man third, and I had Toy Story fourth. And sure enough, Toy Story just keeps chugging along every week, just making money.
At least none of us, didn't have Endgame at number 1. Oh, wait, Jonathan.
Well, that was just that was a Babe Ruth. That was everybody's going to pick this.
Yeah.
I thought there was a reasonable chance that Lion King could ride that Jurassic World kind of wave. Yeah. And I also thought Endgame would top out at about 650.
Hey, tournament play, and this is what that is. This is tournament play of a contest. Yeah. Going like that against the grain can pay off a lot. Like I do that with NCAA brackets and stuff like that.
It arguably is what won the person who won it this year won it for them. They didn't have Men in Black in the top 10, but they had John Wick in their top 10. That John Wick pick is one of the things that won it for him. So
and that's the thing. I mean, even if Lion King doesn't beat Endgame, if I get 5 or 6 of the other ones right, I still probably win, because I'm still looking at 7 for each of the first 2.
Exactly. Yeah,
because Lion King did finish second, and it did make a ton of money.
Well,
it actually, I believe, beat worldwide, it actually beat the first Avengers this weekend. So it did beat Avengers.
Well, welcome to Behind the Sift.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sorry to derail there, but I had to get that.
No, I'm glad you brought it up.
I had to get that in because I was upset about it, but I can get over it.
Secret Life of Pets 2 didn't.
Oh, that was another one. Yeah, that was another one that I didn't think was going to do well, but I thought, well, it's probably going to be in the top 10 still. And,
I think it just nobody knows anything. That's what it all comes down to.
Yeah.
I embraced that mentality from the very beginning.
Way to go, Danae.
That way you're set up for a surprise win and never disappointment.
Yeah. Well, way to go. I think it's hilarious as we get into the show. This is 3 weeks in a row that at least behind the scenes we have thought Danae wouldn't be here.
Yes.
And she is here.
Well,
it's like, you know how like you started saying, you know, when I welcome you, Danae Hughes, you're like, still here. Like that used to mean they haven't fired me. Now it just means I'm actually here even though I said I wasn't going to be this week.
And that's why we have a beloved guest today, because I was supposed to be, as most of you know, I was supposed to be in Florida, but Dorian, freaking Dorian. There's been a conference that we have literally been preparing for a year, and we had to cancel it. And so this whole week is just going to be me issuing refunds to a lot of people. Well, not me, the team will be working on all the behind the scenes stuff of hundreds and hundreds, like probably close to 800
we should say this is
people.
a different job outside of CinemaSins, just so it doesn't get confused.
Like 800 people converging in Orlando, now not coming, you know. So it's just been this crazy whiplash. We're going, we're not going. We're not going. Nope, we are not going. So I got to stay in town, and so I had to ask if I could come on the show this week.
You're always welcome.
But Orlando is more inland, so is it just because of the flights and actually getting out there?
Well, so we actually were there during Irma a couple of years ago in 2017.
I was there too.
And it was absolutely like just bedlam because you didn't know where the hurricane's actually going to, you know, ride up the coast. And in that case, it was during the conference. So again, same conference, same time. And everyone was just trying to get out. And so safety of everybody was really at the top. But the actual airport MCO shuts down today. They're not actually taking anybody in. And the conference started Tuesday night. So tomorrow night at the time of this recording. It's supposed to be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of this week. And so no one can fly in on the day that you would be flying into the conference. And it's just too dangerous, you know, not knowing where the hurricane's going to go. So, yeah.
And I was there a couple years ago when some big storm hit and they actually closed Disney like on that Friday.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about just entirely, totally CinemaSins related stuff right now, super quick fact about hurricanes I didn't know is how many tornadoes can be over the right front quadrant. If the tornado, when the hurricane came over the top of Orlando, it was preceded by literally hundreds of tiny tornadoes that would fall out of the sky, hit the ground, and then zip back up into the sky.
Wow.
So not only are you under this massive warning for obviously crazy winds and all this stuff, but also you're listening and it's just warning after warning after warning of little tornadoes that would just whip down, hit the ground, and then disappear again. It was absolutely insane. I didn't know that because I've never been in one before, but now I can say that I have. And then we were without power.
Either.
We almost got kicked out of our hotel. It was a crazy adventure. I did not know that either. Isn't that crazy? What you don't know that just happened is that we were talking about Hurricane Dorian, and then all of a sudden we started having connectivity issues in Missouri. It got pissed. And somehow...
Is it storming there?
Probably.
Several tornadoes just touching down all over the place. It's insane.
Unreal.
See what happens?
You guys are so brave to continue your podcast with the tornado.
Listen, we do it for you.
The show must go on.
I didn't know. You told me you were in Tornado Alley, and I didn't know Missouri was that big of a tornado destination.
Oh, yes.
I just always think Kansas, Oklahoma.
Yeah, no, they can definitely continue into Missouri. Joplin.
I mean, we get them here.
Joplin specifically got hit real bad a couple years ago. Every time I actually drive to Nashville, I go by a town that got hit by a tornado pretty bad, and they're still building stuff up. And just there's a church there that's like half a church. And
Nature's scary.
Yeah.
Is there a way to transition to our show from nature? Because
probably not.
I feel like...
Nope, we should all just go home.
Yep.
Okay, well, it's been fun, everybody. Thanks for listening to the show. We were going to talk about Futurama, but there's no real transition
I'm actually
here.
at home, so I don't know where to go.
It's true.
That's right. Sorry. You're going to have to go to a gas station or something. All right, let's get into it. Let's talk about this inside scoop.
What's he building in there?
I've got a secret. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
This is a true story.
We're going to take a look at the videos from this week across the various CinemaSins channels. We'll talk about how we felt about the show, movie in general, process of sending them, anything else we want to mention. And yeah, we'll kick it off with TV Sins last Monday. Futurama dropped, finish off the animation month at TV Sins. And boy, people liking the animation sins. A lot of people.
I got to tell you, I was very shocked about these things. When we go into stuff like, you know, real broad comedy, even though it's smart comedy, I worry that we won't be able to pick on anything that's in there because a lot of the stuff is just jokes and things of that nature. But Futurama, somehow, in some way, every time you look at some of these episodes, they have something plot-wise that you can pick on.
Yeah, yeah, there's little stuff throughout. I found it really fun. Futurama, just to talk about the show for a bit first, I think, I don't know, this is hard to say, but I like it just as much as Simpsons in a lot of ways. It is such a smart show, and I think the character work in it is even deeper, especially than what modern-day Simpsons has become.
Yep.
So yeah, I really like Futurama. It's one of my favorite shows.
Yeah, I used to watch all these when they were on Comedy Central on repeats and everything, and I think I've seen the whole series. I'm not sure if I've missed a few here and there. I probably have, but
it would be easy. It would be easy to miss a couple just because they left and then came back twice. And then the second time they came back, they did like 6 movies. So, and then the only thing that a lot of people don't know about is they actually did a like radio style episode on a podcast a year or two ago. Yeah, it's canon and everything. So you know, it's kind of funny.
Good God,
that's fun.
It's all this crazy canon stuff outside of the actual show kills me. Like Veronica Mars, there's like 2 novels that are actually considered canon. It's like, I don't have time for this. Come on.
I watched, I think, just a few minutes when it was on TV, but I never got into Futurama. So this was my first time to sit down and actually watch a full episode to consume it. And I had the very best time. It was my favorite of any of the cartoons that we've done or any of the animated shows we've done, where it's like, this is actually something I want to watch again. So I was really excited for me, it was kind of like discovering a show that I want to go back into. And I even found it to be so well thought through. For example, so, you know, you've got your, I want to watch it and I'm enjoying it brain going. And then you've got your, I'm sinning it brain going, which we talk about a lot. But the sinning side, there's a lot of traffic. Obviously, there's flying cars and things like this. And so my brain was trying to figure out, okay, what are the rules to this traffic? Maybe there's like a sin in here, you know, that I can kind of find or something to kind of joke around about. And then there's this one moment where they're down on the ground and a car zips up into the sky and starts zooming away. And I paused it and I was like, aha, there's my sin. There's no rules, blah, 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 blah. And then like a split second later, a police car goes after them. And I'm like, they have thought about everything. Because even though things are going really fast and they don't really zoom in on that, just in this example, the traffic moment, to talk about how clever they are, how well thought out it is, even as you're watching it, everything has already been thought about. So I just personally, when a show doesn't waste my time like that and they've thought about things and it's really rich and deep, I love it even more. So as this show continued and as I watched it multiple times to sin it, it just got better and better for me. I loved it.
It's really amazing how much they thought of with Futurama. There's actually an alien language that shows up in that pilot episode, like on the walls.
Yeah.
And they have designed that like if you use just simple cryptography, you know, the idea of replacing letters with symbols, you can figure out that alien language by the end of the season and then translate all those things.
Yeah,
that you'll
translates to butt cheese, right?
I didn't know that.
I made that up.
Oh, I would have totally believed you. There is also, and you probably were about to get to this, but there's also the shadow of Nibbler is in
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, is in that initial scene, and you thought that when they went back and then Nibbler started telling his story in the future seasons that they just kind of retroactively put that in there, but it's in the first episode.
Yeah, and people, there were definitely a lot of comments like, hey, how can you not mention this, that kind of thing. And I think specifically we try to operate as the narrator voice, only having seen the episode that he's seeing. And so it's kind of one of those things where it's like, we could have mentioned that, but at the same time, who knows, we'll do more Futurama possibly.
Yeah, and you can always make that a sin removal later in that very episode where they bring that up. The thing is, I did write something, and when you guys sent me your script and everything, I was like, oh man, I really want to put, because I put in a sin removal right then and there, and I was like, but it's just too future knowledge-y.
Exactly.
To know.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, all of us, I think, are conscious of that. And we can always retroactively award or subtract sins.
So I want to talk just for a little bit longer on the Nibbler thing, because as somebody who hadn't seen any of the next episodes to follow, and I was writing a sin for that section. I think Jonathan, you and I both did the cryogenics backward flip one together kind of a thing.
Not spilling the beer and all that stuff. Yeah.
So we had, several kind of scenes or clips there that we could kind of put together to make that, make sense. And when I was writing it, I had it paused on that screen, and I looked at that shadow for so long, going, what the hell is that? What is that thing? And I almost thought maybe it was a sin because, it has no reference. And I seriously had the most mind-bending experience reading the comments, which is when I realized there was a character called Nibbler, because I have no idea.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, this is actually another level of the show thinking things through. Even the comments bring up how the destruction of the city and how that's all part of it. So it was really fun for me to go in and read the comments and see how many fans are there kind of talking about it.
Yeah.
I did have a question, though, and this might be a little snarky, so I don't know.
Oh, how dare you be snarky on a CinemaSins podcast?
I don't want to be snarky, but I have a question. So we're, as writers, supposed to be, because, I'm still kind of new, still figuring it out. So we're new, we don't know what's going to happen later in the show.
That's the idea, yeah.
But then we sin for Zoidberg, or whoever that is.
Right, yes.
So how does that work? How do you balance that?
It's give and take, right?
You don't want too much.
We've done that, and that's kind of become a TV Sins.
We did it with Seinfeld.
Running joke with these pilots. We did that with The Office.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I thought, because those are in other episodes of the TV Sin stuff, which is there's no such and such in this episode.
I mean, if you want to justify it, you could say the narrator has heard about this amazing character and then didn't see them. It doesn't mean he's seen any of the episodes that Zoidberg is in, but
Aaron,
somebody told him he had.
We're just hypocrites, okay? We're just hypocrites.
There you go. Fair enough.
That's really what the fans want to hear.
One of the other things I like that this brought out in the comments was the idea of headcanon for disenchantment being the Middle Ages part of the destruction of the of New York. I thought that was really funny. The idea that that's where disenchantment comes from.
Yeah.
Have you guys watched Disenchantment?
I have. I watched.
Is it good?
I loved it. I thought it was great.
Okay, great.
I saw one episode and I was like, I'll get back to that, and I haven't.
Yeah.
I like the writing part of this process for me individually, but then also when we're doing the combination of our script, because this is, all three we're all together. We had several sins or several jokes that we did. One of my favorite things, which is the combination of the combination, where we sort of merged them together into one. The suicide booth being one of them. Like, how can we all have these thoughts, but how do we get all of them into one nice cohesive line? So I thought that the script writing process and the combination process on this one was a lot of fun too. It was a good collaboration and one of my favorite ones we've done so far. Personally,
I
agree.
Gonna say that this all the time? Probably if I had to pick favorite TV Sins videos so far, this would be up there.
Yeah. This one also is where you referenced, Aaron, the mitten, the anatomy thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I wrote that down. Yeah. Aaron's attention to animated anatomy is
well
crazy.
No, that was Danae. She's the one that does that. She spots those animated things, and it blows my mind.
And on this one, I got to do the whole 3-finger. Why would you do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1? If that's not, I finally kind of got to address that.
That one kind of blew my mind. I had never thought about that the reason we count to 5 is because we have 5 fingers, on our hand. So that was, that one kind of blew my mind.
Well, I apologize today. I thought that was for some reason I thought that was an Aaron.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay.
No.
I don't mind, but it was fun because.
I mean, it's mostly because you're a woman.
Right, yes.
But other than that.
I know.
Sorry, Danae.
Such a ladder to climb. God.
How could she come up with something
right.
funny?
That's amazing.
Anything else on Futurama, on the script, on the Sins video, the show itself? Anything else anybody wanted to mention?
Too bad. Let's talk about Dark Crystal.
Oh, I did want to ask you something, Aaron, though. Did you write the one about if you turn your own knob too much, you go blind?
No, I think that was Chris.
Yeah, that was me.
Oh, okay. Well, the reason I asked that is because Aaron went over some British terms here last week, and knob...
Oh, really?
Oh, we got...
So I just thought it was kind of funny that ended up on the Futurama.
No, that was me, and I will say this. After having watched... a lot of Broadchurch over it was a few months ago that I watched the first 2 seasons of Broadchurch. They often would insult people by calling them knobs, and I thought it was the best thing ever.
Yeah, we learned...
Oh, I'm so glad you watched Broadchurch. Man.
Yeah, I still need to
Broadchurch
see
is
that
great.
3rd season.
Broadchurch is great.
Third season's really good.
We learned that knob literally means dick in England, both figuratively and literally.
Which is why I'm cracking up about people going blind over here. It's just funny stuff. It's like something you would hear in church.
I also love how we went into the whole when did the millennium actually start, because that's one of my least favorite debates.
Yeah, I think it's the dumbest.
So
I think it's the dumbest debate of all time.
It really is. It's the Is Die Hard a Christmas movie of time-based debates.
Oh, and Aaron, you got to insert your love of Universal Time, right?
Perfect.
Wasn't that yours?
Oh yes,
you got to
I got to
insert your
preach
love.
for Universal Time a little bit, which always makes me happy.
Good stuff.
But okay, I do have a question though. How would that work exactly? Because when it's day here, it's night other places.
Yes, so basically it just works because it's different. It just means 2 o'clock for you is the middle of the night. 2 o'clock for me could be dinner time.
But it's always 2. But it is 2.
So you're still saying stick with the same time. It would just
because it just eliminates confusion. You know, we're in such a connected society.
But
that
it would require
wreck
someone
people's sleep.
Yes. Somebody would have to say ours is the time that we're going to use.
Well, it'd be Greenwich Mean Time, right?
Is that central, because that's the one that matters?
because it's like I think about making phone calls and everything, and there'd be some snarky person who's like, well, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon everywhere, so I'm just going to call.
Oh yeah.
It's 5 o'clock.
I would hope we would get it more than that. I did want to say, you mentioned the British insults. I got contacted by somebody on Twitter.
Okay.
About just that. I think it was on Twitter. Maybe it was email. I can't remember. But basically, they said one of the ones we said was super profane.
Really?
It was the one that meant, I said it meant slut.
Bonky Winkle Woodle?
It was Bonky Winkle Woodle. No, it was the one that meant slut, but technically means whore, but worse.
Which one
really
is this?
bad.
Chris is like, I need to know.
Isn't is that the sin where you wrote all those different Britishisms all in one thing?
Yeah, I loved it. The cack-handed balderdash sin is the one that it came from.
But then Aaron went into when he went into his further keeping tabs, he had researched several to pull from, so he just started to sort of name off all of these particular insults, and apparently one of them was very bad.
Oh, really? I'm surprised that Europeans get offended at anything.
Yeah, and maybe it wasn't an offense. He was just letting me know how derogatory it was.
If you called somebody that, it would be horrible.
Yeah, I would think it's probably based on what you're saying, I would think it's probably like us calling a woman the C word.
Yeah, something like that. Here it is. Aaron, I'm listening to Behind the Sins. You're not correct with your scrubber definition. It's far more derogatory than that and applies to anyone, not just someone who you may describe as a quote-unquote slut. He says it's a really nasty insult. From what I understand, trailer trash is from all the TV and films we get on your side of the pond. Scrubber is about 15 levels further down the socioeconomic scale.
Wow.
So,
a lot of STDs.
So don't say Scrubber.
Well, I guess we lost a lot of British viewers.
Guess so.
Suffice to say, we love Futurama. Let's move on to The Dark Crystal, the first of the CinemaSins videos from last week. This was an Atkinson-Scott joint, and Danae is jealous. She wanted to write on this one. She loves Dark Crystal so much. So, Danae, I want to start with you, since you're like an uber fan of this movie. How did you feel about this?
I started the Sins video, and then it has the narrator's voice. Just the first line that is on there, I just immediately was like, oh, I love this movie. Just hearing the narrator's voice, and then all of a sudden it sinned, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm not watching the movie. I'm watching the CinemaSins Sin. I had a good time. It's the same kind of feeling as I had when I talked about the
Emperor's New Groove.
Emperor's, thank you. It kind of had the same feel where it's something that I love so much, but I'm also having a really good time watching because I know what we're doing.
Right.
So there was definitely times when I'm like, no, you can't send that. And then like, oh yeah, I wondered that too. Why couldn't he carry 3 shards with him? What's the deal there? And just how it's all delivered was really smart. So I had fun watching it.
What's everybody else's experience with Dark Crystal? Because
I saw this in the theater.
Wow.
I was, I believe, 6 when it came out. And I was a Jim Henson fanatic as a kid.
Yeah.
I watched everything Jim Henson. I will say I think this movie holds up for the most part. I will say one thing now when I watch it. Jen is a pretty terrible protagonist. Did Danae just give me a mean look?
No. You can have your opinions, and I'll be just fine.
I just think. I mean, he's just kind of I don't know. He's just not a very interesting character.
No, I was. As an adult, you watch these and you're like, how did that even happen? Or even a lot of the sins about Jen was him sort of accidentally stumbling through the whole movie, like having no clue about what's going on. And that sort of feels like life sometimes. So I can give it a pass, but at the same time, I think it maybe doesn't make for a good show either. And I do know that because I also love behind the scenes type stuff. I love watching how things are made when I'm passionate about it. Lord of the Rings is an example. I've watched every single minute of every behind the scenes thing I can get my hands on because it's just so fascinating how that whole world was created.
Yeah.
So you have Jim Henson, obviously, this brilliant guy, and Frank Oz. I think he was a part of it too. And so I loved learning it. But so Jim had a lot of ideas, but there wasn't a lot of clarity on how to put the story together from what I understand. So there's clearly confusion and plot convenient stuff all throughout this, but when you're a kid watching it, it doesn't really matter.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah. And I mean, I could still, as an adult, I can just be in this world all the time. I have not watched the Netflix series
yet. And sometimes I'll watch something and I remember why I have unrealistic expectations of adult life, and this is one of those moments, like Gelfling Love. Like being in this boat where you're both singing together. Like that never happened in my real life, and I'm a little disappointed.
You and Justin don't do that?
No, and I'm upset about it.
Jen and I go on boat rides all the time.
But it's really weird with these Henson products that I like as I've grown up, because when I was younger, like I loved Dark Crystal. I didn't really care that much for Fraggle Rock, and I didn't really care that much for Willow.
How dare you?
But those are two things that as I've grown older, I think they have aged well.
Yeah.
And I've actually gotten a lot more interested in those properties.
I just think it was so fun for me also to sin the slow-moving mystics was so fun for me because, when you're watching it, you're like, this is so stupid when you're an adult, but when you're a kid, you're like, wow, they've really got along with it.
Yeah.
Chris, what's your experience with Dark Crystal?
I can't actually remember if I saw this in theaters. I know that 1982 is the first year that I really kind of remember things about anything. And I remember watching E.T. in theaters and everything. But I was into the Dark Crystal because I remember, and I actually talked about this with Jonathan, in elementary school, those, what is it, the things that they come around with they give you the little books that you can order all these books from or whatever.
Yeah.
And
the book fair, yeah.
I got the Dark Crystal, the like illustrated thing. So I had that for a really long time. Of course, I might even stumble on it today somehow, some way, if I rummaged far enough into some junk. But But I remember being into it. I just don't remember when I saw the movie the first time. Yeah, that's about the extent of it. It's not anything that I held in high regard or anything like that. It wasn't like, oh, that movie is so hallowed,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really my experience with it. It is an extremely likable movie overall. It's also back in a time where children's entertainment wasn't trying to it didn't care whether it scared you or not.
Yeah.
Stuff like back then, they didn't care. They put in dark stuff in kids' entertainment.
Yeah, I think having a puppet have the life sucked out of them is pretty dark.
Or the Skeksis that sort of just dissolves and has this, like, his jaw sort of unhinges and he just turns to ash. That was terrifying.
I was very happy with the I'm Too Skeksy.
That
that needed to happen. I will say I was not allowed to watch this as a kid. It was deemed too dark. It's right there in the title. It was deemed a little too dark of a crystal.
It was probably too crystal as well.
Actually, you know what, Chris? You're actually probably right. So I came to it a little bit later, more as an adult. I think I saw it for the first time after I was married even, and was on, and I watched it. And it's
you're like, who's on drugs now?
Yeah, I was like, this is weird, and I can see, like, if you see it with kids' eyes, like how, like, interesting and fun it would be and that kind of stuff.
Fantasy.
But as somebody who never saw it with those eyes, the only eyes I've seen it with are a little more cynical, a little more realistic, and so for me it was kind of it was a little bit nuts.
You're like, that's a weird puppet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I think Henson, I mean, I don't know this for a fact, but I think Henson, you can tell, like, some of his film stuff, he really wanted to try to go a little darker.
Yeah, I think.
Than what he was doing, like, on Sesame Street. Now, granted, the Muppets were a lot more adult than most people seem to remember.
Yeah.
But the movies weren't as much.
Yeah, I think visually he definitely went for something dark, and I loved it. To talk more about some of the sins that I really enjoyed, something that these are not the droids you're looking for.
Yeah.
That made me laugh out loud. I love it whenever these videos make me laugh out loud, because I like to think it's hard to make me laugh out loud, because I don't know, I'm kind of a snarky person.
You're just such a well put together person. You would never.
So well-rounded.
That was one Jeremy wrote, and overall, I mean, whenever there's an older movie and we just happen to be on it, it always turns out loopy like this.
Oh, it was so fun.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's such a good one. The other ones I really loved was you guys describing the grasshopper, walrus, angry kangaroo things.
That's another Jeremy.
Oh my God. And I'm missing some of even the words that were used to describe the land striders.
Yeah.
But
he called one, anger kangaroo was one of them. Yeah.
The anger kangaroo.
Yeah.
That needs to be a sticker.
Yeah.
That's
oh yeah.
So funny.
For sure.
Another one that I really loved was out there is the great shaft at the castle. Nope, I just checked and that's still in my pants.
Yep. You just like Jeremy stuff. I get it.
Well, maybe I don't know. Should I keep going? I don't know.
I figured that one was
no.
Chris.
That's Jeremy all the way.
Did he do the peacock noises thing?
Well, he didn't write peacock noises. That was the editors.
Yeah, the editors did peacock noises.
Okay, I have no idea what that's in reference to, and I kind of don't want you guys to tell me because it's just so funny.
I can tell you if you want.
Are you talking about when he was doing the dun?
Yeah,
dun,
I have
is that what you're talking
no
about?
reference.
Do you
for
really
that.
not want to know?
I kind of don't because it was so funny.
Because I have that in my notes. I was going to mention.
Okay.
Oh, it's my favorite part of the video.
Okay.
It's the mock time. It's the Star Trek episode, but it's also most people know it because of Cable Guy.
Yeah, it's referencing Cable Guy.
I prefer to know it as because of a mock time because I hate Cable Guy.
I guess I don't know it. It's not in my mind anywhere.
I'll show you the scene if you want to see the scene. But it's just this insane, like, intense music that plays during this knife fight.
Okay.
And so
between Kirk and Spock.
Yeah, between Kirk and Spock. So
Kirk and Spock fight?
Of course.
What?
Well, there's a reason.
Oh, is one of them possessed?
I mean, how nerdy do you want me to get? It has to do with Vulcans. It has to do with their sexual awakenings.
Oh.
Ponfar or whatever it's called.
Well, let's not get too deep into it then.
Yeah.
So that particular joke then, did you love it, knowing so much of the reference?
Yeah.
I will say I did add an extra duh. in the does. It was one short. So I participated in that sin a little bit.
Oh no. There was also
I will never get the term Skexy fucking out of my head.
Oh yeah.
And the question of would you go Gelfling was also very entertaining.
Okay.
I love sin. I don't know what that kind of sin is, but I love sin.
Okay. Well, I actually wrote that one, so I feel vindicated.
Nice. The one sin.
Yeah, the one thing. Everything else, like I could go through all the ones I wrote and you'd be like, nope. None of those made me laugh. Nope.
Well, I will say the whole video made me laugh. So
the video made me laugh as well. It's just probably the more memorable, spiky ones are from Jeremy. I did the thing with the My Three Sons that was in there.
That was great.
And then a few others that might have been funny that you don't remember. But anyway,
I'm so afraid to ask about another one popped into my head, and I'm like, oh no, I don't want to mention it.
No, go ahead. I'm not mad.
Did you like kicking the little creature into the hole and saying "Thank Christ"?
That's Jeremy. Yeah.
Ah, dang it.
Mm-hmm. I think we just created a new game.
The only other thing I really wanted to mention about this was, and I'm going to tie it back into Futurama too, because we kind of have a 1-2 punch here of just amazing voice work in content, and I didn't mention that in the Futurama, but just Frank Oz is just such a genius with his voice. And
well, we may have to touch this in the comment section because he didn't voice Agra.
Oh, he didn't?
No.
Oh, he just puppeted?
He puppeted,
It was the nanny from The Omen, right?
Yeah, her name
is that what they said?
Billy Whiteshaw or something like that was her name.
Yeah, that's right.
It's an actual woman who voiced Agra. This is the power of assumption. I knew Frank Oz was part of this, and the voicing of it is so Frank Oz that I've always thought that he did the voice for Agra, and then I did do a quick check of the IMDb, and it says Frank Oz Agra, but it says character like next to it, but it doesn't say puppeteer, which is what he really is in this whole thing. He's the puppeteer of Agra and many others, but it doesn't say that. It should say, I mean, unless it's like some derogatory term, puppeteers don't like to be called or something, or like it's a union thing. I don't know. But I looked at the IMDb just to make sure, and I saw Frank Oz Agra. So I was like, okay, yeah, makes sense. And then moved on. But Billy Whitelaw doesn't show up until like on the IMDb, doesn't show up until deep into the credits. And so I totally screwed that up. I wrote both references to Frank Oz in this. It's one of those things that you afterwards you're like, shit, fuck.
Yeah.
Oh, well, damn it.
I've had that happen where I'll write something and I did research. We talked about this when you were on the show before too, and then somebody in the comments will tell what's really going on, and they're backed up and like, oh, okay, well, I guess I could have researched for another hour.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's not like that's the problem with certain comments. They then make assumptions about what you have done.
Right.
Where it's like, oh, well, they must have just not done their research. And it's like, well, I did want to make sure that it was him before I wrote that down. And it says on the IMDb, Agra, Frank Oz. And I'm not going to go and check and see if he didn't do the voice because it says he did it. So,
Shame on you,
why should I go farther?
Yeah, I think I said this even last week, and I think it bears repeating. One of the things I love about being able to do this show is to get, to go, hey, every once in a while we do make mistakes, but what's interesting to me is the amount of content we're producing, the amount of jokes that we're telling in every single piece of content. Our percentage is pretty low of those times like this where it's just like, oh, kind of missed that one.
Yeah.
Just because it's like a second level of research you have to do.
I
agree. To figure out.
I think we do better than most do. Even like people who are just doing regular movie reviews will often say somebody's wrong name or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of our percentage. Even if it's something as low, quote unquote, as 90%, I'd be happy with that.
Before we go on to the next one, I also just wanted to do another shout out again to the fans that have their own culture in the comments. There was a lot of references to someone named James. I was like, who's this James person? And it led me to a whole new channel. I guess a guy several years ago did Odds One Out, I think is the name of the YouTube channel. And he has this whole animated video that he did revealing to his fans in the series of like which movie messed him up the most as a child. For him it was Dark Crystal. So I started to watch it. I really liked the animation style, and I'm definitely going to go back and finish it. I wasn't able to watch it before we started recording again today, but huge shout out to the fans because they're on there going, hey, Baby James, and I'm like, what's this Baby James? Well, the whole video is about this movie was too scary for Baby James was the name of the other video that they're referencing, and then like all the fans are finding each other, in this sort of like crossover of Dark Crystal fandom, because the video released by Odds One Out was released years ago. So you think about the time difference, you've got this massive fan base over here that's like, anything Dark Crystal is going to be referenced. So anyhow, I thought that was another fun part of this video for me, was just finding another YouTube channel that I might like.
Let's move on to Cardi B, shall we?
Oh, that's a really. How do we transition to Cardi B?
I want Cardi B to do a review of the Dark Crystal.
Yeah.
You want Cardi B's Dark Crystal version? That'd be very interesting.
It would be very interesting.
So yeah, everything wrong with Cardi B press. I had never seen this video. I have now seen this video. Anybody else want to talk?
I honestly cannot figure out what I think of Cardi B. Like, every now and then she'll have a song that I'm like, oh, that's interesting. But then the majority of it's just like this, where I have no feeling whatsoever towards it.
It's just also lowest common denominator to me. It all just feels very
boobs.
Yeah, it feels very much to appeal to just that lowest part of us.
In the neither regions, right around here.
The first time I was introduced to Cardi B was in the Motorsport song by Migos. And she comes out, and immediately her lyrics are basically about how she has sex with Offset. That's it. That's like pretty much what it starts off with. And I was like, oh, okay. I actually did not know that's what the lyrics were for the longest time until I had found out that she was dating Offset, and then went back and heard that song, and I was like, holy crap, that's all she talks about these days is like how she has sex with Offset. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I may have seen this video. I just don't know what's going on in this video.
It seems to be that she's murdered people and she's on trial, and then she murders more people, and then she goes to prison and she murders people there too.
Oh, so it's like Chicago.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's Cardi B.
If Chicago had a completely nude with the nipples removed, dance scene in the middle.
Yeah.
And in the vaginal
how
area.
creepy was that?
Creepy or fascinating?
It's that's exactly
well, maybe
the word
fascinating, but it's
really?
just
yeah. I find it fascinating on a couple levels. One, I'm a human male, and I find the female body fascinating, and there are a lot of female bodies there.
That's weird.
Number two, and I shouldn't say it that way because that has gender and sexuality assumptions, blah blah blah. I know all that stuff. But number two, I find it fascinating at how hypocritical the idea of what you can and can't show in this kind of stuff is, and maybe that's part of the point of it.
You can show 99% of the body.
You're telling me just because there's no areola, all of a sudden that's supposed to be a different thing?
It's okay. It's okay now.
It's weird. Our ideas on the body and what makes it quote unquote bad to show.
Hey, Aaron,
is
careful. You're in territory where you're going to go off on a body rant. I just want to let you know.
What I meant, the creepy part though, is because the bodysuits themselves are because they're supposed to not look like bodysuits.
No, they're supposed to just look naked without the parts.
It's like body. So they almost come off like robotic.
Right.
It kind of like iRobot or something like that. Like iRobot meets the Stepford Wives was what kept popping in my head.
It's very much, what was the ScarJo where she got flack for playing the
Ghost in the Shell?
Ghost, and it's very Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah, that's another good example.
There's also like a sort of a stigma of showing the bottom of women's breasts, like you can see the tops all you want to, but the bottom, like if you have a cut off shirt or something, there's also a stigma about that.
I think that for me, this is an interesting thing of trying to tell a story that genuinely doesn't make any sense when you really think about it. It's kind of falling apart. So like the story itself could have been better. And then then layered on top of that is what you hope is going to be potentially connecting to an artist or their artistry or their music. But for me, because I can't understand her, and that's just me. I mean, I know that some people are super big Cardi B fans. I can't understand her, and then if I read the lyrics, I don't relate to the lyrics either. So for me, she's an interesting, intriguing character that lives out in the world somewhere, and I don't know that I want to spend my time getting to know what she is putting out, like her artistry is putting out. However, I did find it interesting, the bodysuit part. As a woman, we've talked about this before. Let's not go off on another rant. As a woman,
try and stop me. No, I'm just
seeing
kidding.
the female form on display in such a way where it's not being blurred and like it's actually there, people can see it. I'm like, wow, I'm not used to that, quote unquote, being okay. You know what I mean? Probably because I don't consume a lot of pop culture media. I'm not watching a lot of music videos, and except for now. These days I do. These days I watch them for you guys. You're welcome.
Well, and this is very different. Like, you wouldn't have seen this on MTV, but you can see this on YouTube.
Right.
I mean, it's just the way the videos are, dished out these days.
And I don't quite, and maybe I'll do the weird thing where I go back and I watch it again, but like I also don't understand the bodysuit thing, because it genuinely just looked like they just blurred out the breasts. So if they were wearing bodysuits, I'm calling
the nipples, actually, not the breasts.
Right,
there's a ton of breasts there.
No, the reason I think it's a suit is because there's a design where the nipples are.
Yeah, unless that's a tattoo.
I'm going to tell you, I watched this very carefully. And
this is what we're choosing to really focus on.
No. I actually didn't watch it. I just watched it once through. But my opinion was they were actually naked, and then they computer generated.
That's what.
They very well might have been computer generated suits.
That was my instinct. Was those are actual bodies.
My assumption is that it was sort of like pantyhose suits, where it's maybe they do have something that's pulled over their body, but it's something that's so sheer that you can still see muscle tone and everything. And even in all the females that were there, you could see so much detail of their individual bodies. And this is just me talking real straight talk here. I find that I'm like, oh, look, that's a body that looks like mine. Oh, that's a different kind of a body. And I like seeing various bodies. And also I also am fascinated by, you guys are going to think I'm such an idiot for saying this out loud on the show.
Go for it.
I am such an idiot for saying this. Chris, judge me. I am so sorry. I find breast implants really interesting. I for the longest time could not tell what real breasts and fake breasts, like the difference between the two. So when I saw her, I was like, okay, I think those are fake because they're super round. Like, that's not normal, right? Like, I don't know. So for me, I'm curious about that more than I am about any kind of sexuality to it.
You're curious about whether or not she has fake breasts?
Yes. And then comparing it to the other females, like, I wonder if she has them too.
Did you feel like there was a lot of body diversity? I didn't feel like there was a lot of body diversity in that group.
No, it went really fast is what I'm saying. I only watched it once. I'm like, I want to go back and look and see these different body types.
See, that's my thing. If you're making a point, I don't think she is. I think
hers is very much about sexual.
Yeah, it's titillation, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I get upset, because not only is there not body diversity in this moment where you're showing the human female body, you're also completely sexualizing it. And the idea in that, again, without getting into the rant, because Denise told me I can't.
I wouldn't say can't. I would say let's just be cautious. We've done it before.
That's the issue for me is naked body does not equal sex, and this video is putting the two together exclusively.
I really didn't get sex from it.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
When they were grabbing themselves and
no.
Okay.
I mean, does Michael?
I personally don't think this video is. I mean,
the beginning of it for sure.
Not sexual in the way you're saying.
Yeah,
interesting.
The beginning of it, I think for sure was.
Maybe it's just the words she was saying while they were. I don't know.
I wasn't listening. I was.
She did
boobs.
say they're sucking on my dick with no teeth.
Yeah.
Did that make you think?
Oh, that's true.
Just saying.
I don't know. I guess I'm going to have to watch this video 25 times to figure out what you guys are saying is right.
Oh God.
I love the conversations we're forced to get into on here.
I know.
I will say though, she does have some good music, but this is not, in my opinion, this isn't one of them. I think I Like It Like That was a really cool a pop song.
How are we going to transition to the horror movie, Aaron?
Well, let's just do it. Let's talk about Curse of La Llorona. This was an Atkinson.
Yeah, you said it right.
Yeah, well, it's two L's, so that's a Y sound.
La Llorona.
Atkinson Watkins joint. So we've got both the writers here with us today to chat about this one.
Take it away, gents.
Yeah, honestly, because I've never seen this. I have seen the Sins video. I am not a horror movie fan, so it's not necessarily something that would appeal to me anyway, but I would love to hear kind of you guys' experience with this movie, because it looks like it's not even a good horror movie.
Yeah.
No,
this is straight shitty. It's pretty evident throughout the whole movie that I don't think they ever wanted this to be a Conjuring piece of the Conjuring universe. I think they added Father Perez like later or something. They had to have, because...
But isn't there an Annabelle reference in it too? Didn't I see that in the video?
Father Perez.
Yeah, he thinks that's what he's saying. He thinks they added it.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, Father Perez was in Annabelle, and he's in this, and there's a point where... So he shows up while Linda Cardellini is looking at the funeral thing for the two kids who die at the beginning. And then she goes to him and asks him for some advice, but then he just says, "Go to this other guy," and then they. I mean, it's something that she could have probably just done on her own, and it feels almost like there was a point where in the movie she does just go to that dude, and then but they had to make it seem like she sought out advice from this Father Perez guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could absolutely remove like those 3 scenes from the movie, and you would not notice something was missing.
Usually when they have it's something universe specific, they like to put in like little touches that the demon itself ties in to the universe somehow, or they'll find a way to tie it in with the Conjuring guy or whatever, or they'll like preview something else that they're trying to get started as a movie, like The Nun was in Annabelle Creation, I think. They'll do stuff like that. In this, it's really just the fact that Father Perez is in it is the only way that this is connected.
Well, and then he makes that comment like, we have these people that we use a lot, but we're not going to be able to get them this time, which I would assume he's referring to the Warrens.
Yeah.
But he never says that. But that was so weird too, because we referenced this in a sin that they decided to tie it to The Conjuring, which I assume because they thought they would make more money, but then they didn't advertise it.
No, they didn't. In fact, here's some really behind the scenes stuff. This is what you come here for, guys.
That's right. It's about to happen.
This really, really unimportant detail here. I had The Nun scheduled as a tent pole for Curse of La Llorona because I wasn't sure when the next Annabelle was coming out. It said on Wikipedia that sometime in 2019, or actually didn't even really have a date on it. And so I scheduled The Nun for that week. And I was like, I think right after I scheduled it, they announced the Annabelle Returns or whatever the hell it's called. And
Annabelle Comes Home.
Yeah. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to put it there. And then Jonathan, Mr. Horror Knowledge over there, was like, Curse of La Llorona really is actually a Conjuring universe thing. And I was like, oh,
yeah,
cool.
They showed it at a film festival. And so a bunch of people on Twitter that saw the movie at the film festival are like, hey, this is a Conjuring movie. Like that night that Chris emailed
It's
me.
insane how stuff like that happens.
Yeah.
We just got done with a podcast where we talked about all the fall movies coming out, and there's like 5 or 6 instances where we were like, well, we haven't seen a trailer yet, and then the next day the trailers for all those movies came out. Yeah, man, the Curse of La Llorona is just bad, and it's based on a real urban legend thing that's I think it's in Mexico, and it's something that could be a good movie if you just focused on that, and you focused on what exactly that demon wants, because in the movie it's really unclear whether they want to, whether she wants to take the kids forever and she somehow has kids in the afterlife, or if she's just taking kids left and right and they're dead and that's it, and she keeps looking for more. And I actually thought it was just total nonsense that this ghost who killed her own kids, killed herself, gets to haunt anything afterwards, because most of the time there's like some sort of there's a wrongful death involved when they get to do that. And this one, it just seemed like, oh well, I killed myself, and now I get to go in the afterlife and haunt others. Didn't make sense to me.
It's one of those movies too where they don't really know which way they want to go, because you've got kid murder in this movie like all over the place.
Yeah.
But it never really is that dark of a movie.
No.
So that seems like an accomplishment.
100% doesn't earn those scenes.
Right.
And I'm okay with, I don't want to necessarily see a movie on kid murder, but I'm just saying if you're going to go there, I'm really confused as to why you're even doing that.
The movie also constantly, this is one of the biggest examples of a movie going against its own rules so many times. The idea that once La Llorona touches you, she's got control of you, that just kind of evaporates in the movie. It goes off and on in the movie. There's a point where she has touched all of them, and there's only one scene where the son is in control, is being controlled by her, and then he snaps out of it, and then it never happens again. And then she touches the daughter a second time, and she's under control for a little bit, and then she snaps out of it.
Yeah.
There's also the whole thing where the Raymond Cruz character, the one they get to help them out at the house, says that the demons are tied to the house, not tied to the house. It's tied to the family, just like a lot of these demon movies we've been seeing. But then proceeds to do a whole bunch of stuff involving the house.
That's the part of the video I was going to bring up, because it seemed like this horror movie, more than any other horror movie I've ever heard us in, absolutely threw away any rule that it stated and was just like, we'll just do whatever we want.
Yeah, pretty much. They just wanted to they had ideas for scenes, and they wanted to do these scenes, and then forgot that what they said in the movie contradicts what those scenes say.
Yeah, and it was and he said he said that it was after them and it was not attached to the house, and then maybe 2 lines later, we have to get to the house immediately.
Yeah, exactly. It's absolutely immediate after he says that.
Why couldn't we just do it here in the shop if they're attached to you?
Right, and then the whole thing is this subterfuge where he's put candles around the family, and he's just trying to draw the demon to them and whatever. And I was like, you could have done this, exactly as you said. Could have done this in your shop, man, if that was the case.
I feel like, as someone who really does not like horror or any kind of scary movie, I just don't like going there. I'm way too jumpy in real life, and I am a weapon already because I know martial arts. I don't want to hurt people, so if I watch a scary movie, I'm even worse. Mm-hmm. So it's for everyone's safety, I just don't watch scary movies.
Yeah, but I don't know what scary-esque movies you actually have seen and you do like. I would imagine
The Dark Crystal.
The Dark Crystal. The Dark Crystal is scarier than this movie. But at the same time, there are, like I said, there's she kills kids, and you see that.
Yeah,
and
I can't. Even watching it.
Yeah,
in
that's
the
what I'm
Sins
saying.
video,
Yeah, that's definitely a trigger. I get that because it is for me too, having a kid. I never enjoy that.
I do want to say though that after watching the video and seeing how ridiculous it is, I'm like, well, maybe I could watch this one because now they've sinned it, and so it's all falling apart. So maybe I can just not try to understand what's going on and just watch it because it's just stupid.
Yeah, don't watch it.
There's an element of the pulling back of the curtain and the wizards there, and you're like,
okay, this is just stupid.
There's actually good horror movies you could watch. I would not watch this one.
So that was going to be one of my questions, seeing how terrible this one is, and you guys both watching it and talking about just all the plot falling apart, et cetera, et cetera. Even I like how you guys even mentioned, wouldn't the kids be terrified that they've been touched by ghosts and they're just totally acting normal? Mm-hmm. So even all of that stuff and just how stupid it all was. But I was going to ask, just for the horror fans out there, and there are many even in Discord right now, I'd let them know that you guys are talking, and they rightfully guessed which movie you guys are going on about. And several of them were like, yes, let Jonathan go on and on about horror movies because you've got horror fans. So if this one's an example of a terrible one that doesn't have a good plot, it doesn't have a good, nothing kind of all holds together, what is one that you would recommend people go watch?
That's similar to this?
Yeah, kind of got that similar kind of creepy.
Probably the best ghost story I've ever seen on film is The Changeling. You've seen this too, right, Chris?
Yeah, I love The Changeling.
Yeah, it's 1980, I believe, George C. Scott. I will say, and as far as the Conjuring verse movies go, I like The Conjuring. I just haven't really liked anything else.
Yeah, the first Conjuring is really good. The second one's actually decent too, but
it's okay. It's a little too long.
Yeah, it's too long.
It's okay.
But it's those are actually pretty good.
Well, especially compared to these.
Yeah.
I am not a horror fan, but I think the first Conjuring movie is very good. It's just a really well done film. So there are those moments. And by the way, this is The Changeling, not Changeling.
Right.
Correct.
That's a completely different movie.
Changeling from 1980.
Changeling.
This is not the Angelina Jolie movie.
Changeling,
which is also a good movie.
Is also a horror movie in many ways.
Yeah.
So there is that as well.
Yeah.
So tell me this about the puddle at the end and the reflection. Was that the whole scene? Was there any more?
There was no sound.
It.
There was no image. There was nothing. It goes to black immediately.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I rewound it. I was like, maybe there's something I'm missing. I turned the volume up. I tried to do a whole bunch of stuff to maybe there's something I'm just missing. Maybe her face changes or something. I don't know. And what you see is exactly how it ends.
Wow. That's amazing. No, I doubt I will ever be seeing The Curse of La Llorona.
Well, and to brag about Chris a little, to give him some love in the sense here, he did write it. He wrote that great crisscross reference.
Nice.
That I had forgotten that song existed. Also, Chris, have you actually read Flowers in the Attic?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Oh, wow. And there was also a couple of, talking about stuff that's just crazy random happenstance. There was a Save the Last Dance reference in this because one of the actors was in Save the Last Dance.
Yeah.
There was randomly a Save the Last Dance reference in a recent video, too. And I couldn't remember what it was, and I couldn't find it, but I know it was in a recent CinemaSins video prior to this that I had nothing to do with.
That's great. I did dig the Velma is watching Scooby-Doo moment. Just the Linda Cardellini actually having Scooby-Doo on the TV.
Yeah,
made me
both
smile.
of us wrote on that one.
We did.
Jonathan had written one thing and I wrote another. I think it ends up being mine, but I don't know.
I think so. Mine was some. I'm sorry.
I don't know if we had implemented some of yours into it. I can't remember.
Mine was something like because Velma's not in the scene she's watching, so I wrote something like, "Oh, now I see why Velma's not in this episode because she's at that house."
Oh yeah.
And yours was a lot more to the point, and you didn't have to think about it. So I was just like, I'll just let mine go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I know that was appreciated in the comments because people were trying to figure out where they knew the actress from, and so that sin actually sort of helped them connect the dots.
Freaks and Geeks is where you know that actress from. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Linda Cardellini's great, and she's actually good in this movie.
Yeah, she's perpetually wasted. She's Daddy's Home was where she wasn't used very often. Though of course she's Hawkeye's wife. That's about as worthless as it gets.
I literally thought you meant she's just drunk or something, perpetually wasted.
She could be. Let's just go with that. Let's do something very libelous.
She's also in this movie that was really bad and didn't win any awards called Green Book.
Yeah, that's right. Well. That's right. Isn't she just the wife? Isn't Viggo Mortensen's wife in that? She's always just playing a wife.
Poor Linda Cardellini.
I was glad the Friday the 13th Part 3 opening titles thing worked.
Yes,
that was
beautiful.
beautiful.
I didn't know if that was going to work or not, but I was glad to see it did.
Oh, yeah.
That was great.
Good job, guys.
Well done.
Thank you.
We are awesome.
That's the whole point of this podcast. We should have called it the We Are Awesome podcast.
That's right. Just temp everything that we wrote that people said something about. We're happy about that.
Woo!
Let's move on to music from behind. This one also about Cardi B. What did you guys think of this video?
Moving on. I'm kidding.
No, I've enjoyed all of them. I've actually not had any hand in them, and but I've enjoyed all of them so far.
I have
and this one is another one that goes off onto a huge deep tangent of her origins and everything, and I'm digging it.
Yeah, I also love how the same thing is happening with the comments. I think that's probably, besides how hilarious the videos are, because they continue to just blow my mind with their funniness and just over the topness. I love seeing the growing fan base. This is the first time I've had a chance. I mean, you guys have probably seen this multiple times with launching different channels, but this is the first time I've been able to personally watch something new start and then see how the fans are reacting to it, and to see how much love it's getting. Just, it warms my heart.
I laughed out loud at the constant references to her sex parts.
I
thought that was hilarious. It's great because it's just straight ridiculous jokes, and I love it.
Yeah. It was.
Well, I like the idea that Amigos was 3 doctors.
Yeah. They decided to follow Cardi around and make sure that her operation stays, stays intact or whatever.
It just keeps
and then
going.
having to wrap my head around the fact that Offset is essentially having sex with a former bird.
Right. That's what I sat at the end of that video was thinking. I was like, wow, it gets really dark places if you think about it in real. If it was real, it gets dark.
I love the thumbnail of Cardi B with her beak. That's just so funny. Oh my god! I feel like all I'm ever going to say about this segment is it's just so funny.
I know.
But it is.
That is really what happens. The comments giving a lot of love to while the machine machined part of the video.
Yeah, this is one that I wish we could get Barrett on here and he could like get us a little bit more. He'll be on the next week's episode though.
That is correct.
Ooh,
Barrett,
a glimpse into the future.
A little bit of a tease. A little bit of a tease.
And Danae will probably still be here.
Yeah, Danae will definitely still be here.
All right, let's move on to keeping tabs.
The internet is a communications tool used the world over where people can come together to bitch about movies and share pornography with one another.
Ha ha! Oh, jeez.
This is the most public yet of my many humiliations.
We're going to pick a couple things from the editing process. Tabs we can remember having open, searches that were funny or embarrassing, maybe even some deleted sins that we wanted you to know about.
Deleted!
A little bit of strong bad there today?
Yeah.
A little bit of strong bad?
Yeah, I'm really glad you knew that reference because I myself forgot where it was from.
It doesn't surprise me.
It's just in my brain somewhere.
Deleted.
All
right. What do you guys got? Jonathan, why don't you start? What's something you want to talk about?
So Futurama, which this ended up being, I guess this is technically a deleted sin too, but I wrote a sin about where I included a reference to the Flat Earth Society.
Yeah.
And so I Googled about that because it was one of those things where I'm like, I think this exists. And then I was sad to realize that it did. And although if we have any flat earthers that like our podcast, welcome.
We disagree.
Maybe tune out for the next few minutes. But no, so I looked that up. And then I spent like probably 15, 20 minutes on this website because it was insane.
Yeah.
And then they gave some reasons why they believe this. And I thought that was interesting, so I wrote some of these down.
Go for it.
Yeah, the horizon always rises to meet at eye level was one of them.
What was it?
The horizon always rises to meet at eye level.
Okay.
So that means the Earth's flat?
Yes.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
By the way, all of these things, I think, I'm trying to think if it was Neil deGrasse Tyson who went through all these once, and he was basically saying that no matter what you come up with as a fact, they have a counter argument to it.
Oh, that's 100% true.
I mean, in some
Their
ways,
FAQ section, everyone should go check it out.
Mm-hmm.
In some ways, it's almost a testament to the power of the human imagination, right? Like, it's almost a testament to how powerful we can create, our own truths. It's depressing,
this is like a precursor
but
to Twitter, basically.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It all comes from this idea that the moon landing was staged, or we are able to take things that seem so evident and just go, but what if this happened instead?
And that's part of it. The moon landing thing, because most people question, like, well, what about the pictures? Mm-hmm. And then they're like, well, you can't trust photographic evidence from NASA because of the inconsistent lighting of the moon footage.
Right. Yeah.
And then the astronauts have been bribed and coerced into their testimony.
Yeah.
And then my favorite, though, was the question was, why do people lie about the shape of the earth? Which they gave a few different examples, but my favorite was to hide the truth of the Bible.
Oh, my
and
God.
I didn't know and I haven't read the Bible in a while. I didn't know if Aaron or Danae could make me understand what they're talking about.
I'm not that good of a Christian.
I'm not going to use the Bible to talk about.
If you want to have an interesting day, go check out the Flat Earth Society website. And they have podcasts too, by the way.
Of course they do.
From 2016.
Yeah. He's like, you can't possibly have a diversified podcast on that, right? Like each one of them is like, oh great, we're going to talk about how the Earth is flat today. Let's talk about that. And
I tried to get one to load because I was just curious, but it wouldn't even load.
It's probably because the Earth is actually round is the reason why you can't get this podcast.
It could absolutely be.
That was my research for the week.
Very nice. Danae, what do you got?
Also from Futurama, I looked up the word Fortran.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which, again, just a testament to the show and how they think about the small details. Bender in the bar is drinking a beer called Old Fortran, and it is an old programming language.
I took a class.
And he's a robot, so it's just so cool and so smart that he's drinking a liquid that is made from old programming language. So
it's a really great joke because, honestly, they could have gone with a much more basic joke there as well. And, but they went with something a little more clever. So,
like a little bit more C++.
I took a class.
Yes. They went with a joke that was a little better, maybe great at like a C++ somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. I took a class of Fortran at Tennessee Tech. And I think, it was already an outdated programming language then, of course, but they teach you that as sort of a baseline for like the later, more complex programming languages. So it gets you in the headspace of how programming works. So that's the simplest one that they can start with. And so, yeah, it's interesting that they still taught it, even though it was outdated, but it sort of gets you in that like baseline thing.
Yeah, there was another one like about, I think at the very beginning it was Fracas Jr., and I looked up the word fracas, which means to make a noise. And and they just
I believe it's pronounced fracas.
Yeah, sure, whatever.
But sure.
Hey, listen, the Earth is questionably shaped.
Listen, I just remember
I can make it my reality. Fracas.
I just remember my dad used to yell down the stairs.
Quit making a ruckus?
Fracas.
A fracas.
Yeah.
Speaking of that Fracas Jr., though, I forgot to mention we were talking about Futurama. Those two people drinking wine at that pizza
in the background.
Joint, I don't know why that made me laugh so much.
Oh, yeah.
It's like going to Pizza Hut and having wine.
Are we only doing one, keeping tabs?
No. You can do two. I've only got one. I'll go ahead and do mine. Mine was also for Futurama because I didn't write on anything else this week. But there was the ass full of laser multiple choice question about I love those. Are some of my favorite ones to do. And we always like to end those with, the name of my such and such type band. So I did a search for obscure music genres. And boy, oh boy, are there some obscure music genres.
Yeah. No, I've done that same search.
You guys are amazing. I'm sure, maybe down the road, I'll be like, so I did the search for obscure X whatever, and I'll come across ones, and you'll be like, oh, yeah, I've been looking at that website for years.
The one that I ended up going with was Cuddlecore.
And I thought you had made that up. That's a legit thing.
This is a legit type of music.
For aggressive cuddling?
It is twee pop, a subgenre of indie pop that originates from this compilation in 1986. It's characterized by its simplicity and perceived innocence. Some of its defining features are boy-girl harmonies, catchy melodies, and lyrics about love. Some famous cuddlecore bands are Bunny Grunt.
Yeah.
The Shonen Knife, the Softies, and Tullycraft. In case you wanted to know more about some famous cuddlecore bands, but that one made me laugh. That cuddlecore is an actual music genre.
Yeah,
I guess we're really going to be expanding our Spotify playlists.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, we got several people that sent in their end of the 3 songs that would play.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, that was a good question. What do you got in your keeping tabs, Chris?
So not much. I guess not much on Dark Crystal, other than I just wanted to make sure when Fraggle Rock started. Because Dark Crystal was before Fraggle Rock, but I still wanted to make a Fraggle joke somewhere, and that's where I ended up, where they're playing the instruments and everything, and it says you wake up the Fraggles.
I did like that one. See, I do like your jokes.
Yeah. You just not memorable enough to say on a podcast in front of everybody.
I'm so fired.
But you guys are going to come out of this podcast thinking I'm pissed off at you and I'm pissed off at Jeremy and all that, and it's so far from the truth.
No, I know you way too well.
Yeah. But I just wanted to look that up because I wanted to see, because I thought that Fraggle Rock might have come out at around the same time, but it was like 3 years apart. Fraggle Rock came out in '85, I believe, on HBO.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember watching it because we got HBO back in the day. And that's how I saw a lot of the movies that I saw. Neverending Story, The Natural, all of those. But Fraggle Rock, I never watched it religiously, but I did love watching the intro to it and the song and everything. But I just wanted to see when Fraggle Rock came out. And also, there's the scene with the bats when they tell the bats to go out and find the Gelflings and everything. And the bats are these crudely drawn, like animated things that are coming out, and that's the Batman sin that's in there. And I wanted to find out if that was rotoscoped animation. From what I can tell, it's not. But because rotoscoped animation is when they draw over an existing like something that they've shot, like kind of like Scanner Darkly,
right? Yeah.
And everything. But I remember seeing some stuff back in the day that had been called rotoscoped, and it had that same kind of like feature and everything. Anyway, I just wanted to see if Dark Crystal used rotoscoped animation. Apparently, nothing that I can come up with says that it did. But I still wanted to. I just wanted to put the word rotoscope in that, so that's what I ended up doing.
I find looking at the history of animation is one of the most fascinating explorations you can do. Just the idea of drawing every frame. It's such an like a process and a task. And to think of the fact that like in Snow White and a lot of these old animated films, they're having to draw 30 pictures for every second of film, that kind of thing. I don't know. I find it very fascinating, like the technical, like they talk about the plane. What did they call that? Where they'd use like different planes that Disney would use.
Yeah, you've seen that
movie.
Video? Did you? Yeah. Is it possible that you sent me that video? That's a fascinating look.
Yeah,
into how they made those sort of 3-dimensional worlds, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, animation is a really fascinating thing to kind of dig into and see how the process has changed over the years. So yeah, rotoscoping is definitely a part of that. All right, Danae.
I have another one that I looked up was the Circle Line Cruise for Futurama, which I discovered was a real thing. If you pause at the right exact moment, whenever at the opening credits, he's flying underneath the water and there's like this sunken cruise ship. Mm-hmm. Apparently it's a real cruise ship. They cruise the harbor of New York, which is interesting. And then the other thing that I had written down was actually one that was cut. And this is a good segment into the comments because it came up in the comments and I was feeling super proud of myself. Now, Aaron likes to do this whole thing where like, we're all the same team. One good joke is everyone's good joke. But I'm going to stand on my own little soapbox right now. And I'm going to say with confidence, I should have fought for this one. This one got cut, but I should have fought for it.
Now, before you go into this, I know what you're talking about.
Why didn't you let me keep it in, Aaron?
You probably wouldn't have won. We could have taken it to a vote about everybody. But go ahead and tell everybody what you're talking about.
It's Bender's arms getting put back on.
It is the joke the show makes. The show is because they even reference it, right?
Do they?
Yeah, Fry even says, I don't even know how you did that, or something like that.
Oh, well then now, it definitely should have been cut. Well, that was not very exciting.
Yeah, I think during my sort of note-taking, I wrote something about that and then just ended up going, I'm not even going to try to introduce this because the show itself is already joking about it, and so,
Yeah, I guess I should have realized that they were making that joke because you're absolutely right. They had the perfect lead-in, which is because they set it up because it was on purpose. See, this is why we talk about these things.
Yeah.
This is our group therapy.
By the way, we haven't said it clearly out loud. The idea is that Bender has both his arms are off, and then you see him put one arm on and then use that arm to put the other arm on. It's like, well, which arm how did he put it on with an arm that wasn't attached to him? That's the...
He's got that Iron Giant thing where they just,
That's right.
I was also really proud of the joke that I wrote because it took me a while to figure out how to explain it because you're trying to write out how does someone put their arms on if they don't have any arms on to put on.
Right, yeah.
So I guess what I'm really frustrated about is that I didn't understand that Futurama made the joke and that I wasted a lot of time writing a joke that was never used.
Yeah, sometimes that'll happen where you're watching something and then you press pause and then you go and write your thing and then you press play and the thing that explains it or is funny is in the middle of that little like abrupt, whatever, when you started back up. So yeah, it can happen.
It did. It happened to me, and I appreciate this therapy moment with you guys and being able to work out that angst.
Well, it does bring up the thing that we've talked about too, about doing the animation. I think Chris kind of referenced this at the beginning too, which is these are broad joke situations, and it's not as funny for us to make a joke that the show's already making, and that's going to happen time and time again in these kind of shows where they are doing something ridiculous to make a joke of it, and really the only joke we can make is when we say, okay, enough of that, or where we say, okay, that doesn't excuse it. We can kind of make those jokes. But that was one of those cases where it was just like, yeah, I think that was the point. The point was we're supposed to...
I get it, Aaron. Okay, we can move on now. My wound is
I don't
still
know. Have we
bruised.
piled on her yet enough?
I don't think Jonathan's said anything.
Yeah, Jonathan hasn't contributed to insulting Danae's, joke telling process. Oh, he did earlier though. He's the one who started it.
That's right.
Yeah, it was me.
Because she's a woman.
All right.
Even though that was clearly a joke, though, somebody's going to comment.
Of course.
Yeah, look. We probably shouldn't joke so hard about it either,
guys.
because it does become like almost serious when you do that.
Well, I guess I should make an official statement. I'm fine.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
But even then there'll be people like, she said she's fine because she feels pressure. She has to say it really
Yeah.
inside. She's not fine.
That's right.
Yeah. And behind the scenes, she is telling all of her friends that
I've been over
she
here
hates
weeping.
us. Yeah.
No, I've been over here doodling. In fact, just to mention, I'm going to put another picture of a doodle up in Discord. That's how upset I am. I've been doodling the whole time.
All right. Let's move on to the comment section.
I want to know what you're thinking.
I appreciate your honesty. You're a real straight shooter.
You are the ones who are the ball lickers.
We're going to take a look at a comment or two from the week's videos. And then we've got a question in the section that came into the email as well that we will address. So, Chris, let's start with you. What are some of the comments you wanted to talk about?
So for La Llorona, most of the top comments seem to be about how for Hispanic people, La Llorona is a huge, awesome ghost story. So many of them were talking about how the adaptation of the movie and everything was just awful. So that was a thing. One thing that I watched part of after I saw the movie was I watched a little bit of the behind the scenes. And watching these actors try to say, "Wow, what a great story this is," and everything, with trying to sell their movie, and everything. It's just I wonder sometimes if people when they're telling these things, like, "Oh my God, I heard this story when I was a kid," and everything. They're not really relating the story to the movie they just shot. They're not that story might be scary, but the story you guys told was terrible.
You do wonder sometimes how much verbal integrity they're trying to have as actors. Like if they're trying to work their way around, not saying the movie is bad by talking about other things, or if they're just willing to completely sell out and go, yeah, this movie's awesome. Where everybody's line is on that, part of the thing. Because I've heard actors very rarely, but will say, yeah, that was an awful movie I was in. But for the most part, they have to kind of play a part, right? They have to kind of sell the movie, and so it's interesting to hear what they have to say.
That's where they do their best acting, I think, a lot of times.
That's right.
The one Jonathan had written a sin in there about La Llorona saying something in Spanish, and we didn't get the subtitles. Mm-hmm. There were people who were kind enough to translate for us.
Yeah.
Nice. They said it's something along the lines of "You're going to stay with me forever," even though there's 2 other interpretations that I found in the comments. But it's basically that. Yes, that would have been nice to know. Exactly.
Yeah, that was super weird because you would have thought that would have why wouldn't you subtitle that?
Right.
Because we have no idea what she's saying to him.
It would be nice to know what her motivations are, because as we said before, the motivations for what she's doing not really registering at all.
This is not the case with this movie, but I have heard of directors being subtitle averse because they want it to feel authentic. And when the words pop up, it makes it feel like it's a movie, that kind of thing. In fact, the rumor was, and I think this is true, I think I've heard Mel Gibson talk about this, The Passion of the Christ was originally supposed to be in the original languages with no subtitles.
I remember that.
And the idea was that somebody just popped a camera down at the time of Jesus and you just left to deal with, what you're seeing. That's ridiculous to me. Like, I can't imagine how that benefits anyone. But just that idea of, for authenticity's sake, don't even show people what they're saying.
I kind of like that.
In some cases, I think that makes sense. But in this case, that felt like something we should have seen.
Exactly. Right. Like for Passion of the Christ, I think most people, and I'm not speaking for everyone, but I'm saying most people, especially in my bubble, know the story very, very well. And so if it was something that was being done in a completely different language, I think that'd be kind of interesting because I know the story. But
I was very upset in Passion of the Christ that they left out the whole, where he had that contract in Vegas and he was doing shows.
That was really upsetting.
Yeah.
One other thing that came up during my running through the comments was someone mentioned that there is such a thing as consecrated ground, which I know. It's one of those things where you write a sin and then someone argues something, and again, I hate bringing this up, but it seems straw man-ish in a way. But it's they sort of find a wedge to argue about something. The idea is if we live in a world where priests can go over and make things consecrated or holy water or whatever. They might believe that, but I think in the back of their heads they know that the stuff that they're doing isn't really protecting them from anything. And in this world, though, this guy actually has this power. He makes their whole pool holy water. And I'm sitting there going, if you have that actual power, why can't we make the whole world that? Why can't there just not be any evil at all in the world? Why don't you get all the priests of the world to join hands and then make the whole world, not evil? And then of course when we say something like that, someone has to say, well, there is such thing as this and that and whatever. It's like, we weren't saying there wasn't. We're just saying that in a movie world, if there's something that prevents evil from happening, why don't we do it for everything?
Well, in fact, that comment actually kind of backs up the joke, right? Like the idea that there's consecrated ground makes that joke stronger.
Yeah, it
why
does.
aren't we using that?
Right.
Danae, you got one?
Nope.
None?
I'm kidding.
Okay.
Of course I have comments. One from the same movie was from Francisco. I don't know how to say her last name. Hold on. I'm going to try. Golisano. Okay. There are demons with bounds. For example, the one that makes only one sock disappear in the washing machine. That's pretty limited, to be honest. So I loved that comment.
Absolutely.
The only other comment that I had was all about the Futurama conversation, which was all around aliens not destroying New York because Bender did it in his time travel.
Yeah.
And then it really just goes into, that's why I didn't touch that particular building, so that was part of it. And then there's probably 15 comments of other incredible Futurama fans that just continue to go deeper into the whole universe. And so I don't know, it was a really fun comment thread to kind of get stuck on and read more about.
And they weren't being ugly about it, right? They were just saying, hey, this is what happened, which is cool. I like that.
Yeah, there's some people that we only find out about it later, so it's a sin now because we didn't know about it, and so there's that kind of happening. But to me, my interpretation of reading it is that it's not snarkiness as much as it's a blend of people talking about the sin plus the fact that this is such a smart show. So I really enjoyed that entire
thread.
What
I got from that was Danae probably wrote that because she's a woman.
That's right.
And doesn't know anything.
That's right. I'm clearly the dumbest one here.
Yep.
Actually,
mainly because of the chromosome thing.
I'm very, very smart, but compared to these guys, nope.
Jonathan, what you got?
From Music From Behind, there was something written by Silent Night 1214. It said, this was the best episode of Music From Behind the Sins thus far. Keep up the fantastic work. CinemaSins A-Team and B Team. The reason I included that was because I like that this A-Team and B Team is kind of becoming a thing.
Yeah, that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Because of Aaron. I was just giving him credit.
I don't know if I'm supposed to do this, but while we're talking about comments, I have been leaving comments in the comment section. I even left a comment on the ones like, hey, I'm going to address this, like the bender arm thing. I'm going to address this on the podcast. So if people are like, I'm actually kind of going in there and leaving teasers to listening to the show. Is that okay?
I thought you were like trying to say like you were Silent Night 1214.
Yes, definitely.
You like have all these different YouTube names. You're just leaving comments.
I did joke about.
Good God, what did I just say? I don't think that was comment. I think it was like condiments.
I think I heard condiments.
You're going in there and leaving condiments?
Yes,
today?
I love mustard. I love mustard.
And I was sitting there thinking, what is the reference I'm not getting here?
Why is there Chick-fil-A sauce in the comment section?
Yeah, that's just like
the only other thing I had. I did not write which one this was from, but it was Brian O'Neill. And he wrote, watching this on 1/4 speed because an incredibly drunk-sounding Jeremy makes every sin sound hilarious.
Oh yeah.
And he said half speed, he just sounds stoned.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to know how to do that, there you go.
There you go.
Very nice. I just had one from Futurama. Well, no, actually, I did have one from La Llorona as well. This comment is from Benjamin Foreman, who says, he's about to. And then he says, great, now I've got to get a hernia operation because of an obscure joke.
Yeah,
I just love that kind of stuff.
That you laugh so hard you give yourself a hernia.
Yes, yeah.
That's a problem.
Crisscross has gotten mentioned more in the last couple hours than they have in the last 20 years.
That's true. That's very true.
Well,
that's one of those that come that just are so awesome that the movie itself has no awareness of what they just said.
Right.
And it's just it's perfect. Everything's perfect about it. The character's name is Chris, and he's got to warm it up. And there's nothing better than having some reference that goes that far back to and being able to say something like that.
Speaking of that, I don't know why we would have brought this up, but I just wanted to talk about how funny it is. Why there's a sin in Curse of La Llorona where about the eggs being rubbed on everything.
Oh yeah.
And Chris, like I just wrote Chris and Barrett, and Chris changed it. He added the last names because he came back and he's like, there's a kid named Chris in this.
Yeah.
So we should probably put the last names in.
Yeah. That was the issue that I was sitting there thinking. I was like, I don't want people to think that we're talking about the kid that's in that movie. Right. And so, I was like, all right, we're just going to have to put last names.
That's why it's good to have two people on this, because I wasn't even thinking about the fact that kid's name was Chris.
Yeah. And then, so I've got a couple in the Dark Crystal. I already talked about the Billy Whitelaw thing. I feel really bad about not crediting her.
Yeah.
So I feel bad about that. And then the thing that Danae brought up about this odds one out. These things are kind of frustrating at times because I've never heard of odds one out. I didn't know about some other Dark Crystal video that was out there that was apparently popular. And then you have people in the comments who seem to think that, we definitely saw that. And we definitely, not coming out and saying we ripped that off, but just saying, it's, there's some similar things in here or whatever. And it's like, this is one of those arguments that you're never going to win. You can't possibly win it because you can't possibly tell someone that you haven't seen something if you happen to do something that's the exact same. And this isn't even the same thing that Patton Oswalt was talking about with joke thieves and everything, where, you've heard something and then you put it in your own act later on and it was all subconscious and everything. This is something I genuinely never heard of before. When I saw the comments, I get dismayed when I see somebody else's video getting pimped out a whole bunch in our comments and everything. And not because I don't want them to have extra eyeballs or anything. It's just that it makes it seem like, we just saw that video and then we made our own, even though we've been doing this for 7 years. If you have something similar in the video, people are just going to say, you must have seen that. Like nobody can come up with the same thought, miles apart or anything.
Well, we know that's not true because we'll combine our scripts and every single writer will have the same joke, at one of the same. You know what I mean? That's the whole thing is we have a half dozen alts that we have to choose from every single script because we see the same jokes.
Yeah, and plus it would just come up as nuh-uh, nuh-uh.
Yeah, and that's just annoying.
So it's just like, okay.
One other thing that I noticed in the La Llorona comments is how many people want to see our Avengers Endgame, and And believe me, I know that you guys want to see our Avengers Endgame video. We're not doing other videos instead of Endgame or anything like that. Like, oh, we could do that, but we're not. We're just going to do this. We're going to do Curse of La Llorona, a movie that nobody saw. If you know the ins and outs of running a channel, and I'm not going to go too far into it, we can't come out with Endgame until later. It's just the way it is, and I can pretty much tell you, even though we don't like doing this, I can pretty much tell you that it will be by the end of the year. You will see Avengers Endgame. I can't tell you when, but we will have it by the end of the year.
That's kind of cool. You know what I always tell people, I was like, yeah, and I want the next Pixel phone, but things have an order, like stuff has to get done, and Google will make their announcement in October, and then they'll be available in November. You know what I mean? Like it's our patience level has really waned in culture.
Yeah. Now Aaron has said we have to watch like every MCU movie before we can write it.
Well, that is part of it.
It used to be pretty easy with the Marvels because you could come out. They would have one in the summer and then one in the fall, and they're not doing that this year because they're sort of they're going into the new phases and everything, so they don't have anything ready. And I think for them it's probably a good idea too to wait until next May to come out with that Black Widow movie and everything. But it used to be easy. Like something would come out in November, and you would just do that summer's Marvel movie as the tent pole for that. But now it's gotten to the point where, like, if we waited for a tent pole, we'd have to wait until next May to do it, and we will come out with it. It's not. We're not going to wait a year, but we're going to wait until it's quote unquote right. I think a lot of times questions that people have about the release schedule and why we do the things we do would be more understandable if you knew what it takes to start up a YouTube channel and have it stay successful and running as long as it is. And a lot of times people don't understand those things, and it's hard to explain. So that's the reason why you haven't seen Endgame yet.
The only other comment I had was from Futurama. Brian Malloy says, bag of holding is a proper noun and as such should be capitalized.
Yes, I loved that comment so much because I put the bag of holding in there, D&D fangirl over here, but then I also totally missed that. So yeah, it totally should have been all caps.
It's
not all caps, but capitalized.
I didn't realize that was a D&D thing. I just thought it was like a expression.
I loved it.
I did too.
I didn't either. And what I loved about it is Danae. This is what I love about one of the many things I love about the collaboration of our writing team is we each bring our individual knowledge bases into this. And Danae really is our first writer that plays D&D, plays it consistently, knows the terminology, that kind of stuff. I remember feeling the same way the first time I got a Doctor Who joke in there because I knew the guys aren't necessarily Doctor Who fans, but I am. And so then there's this level of people who catch that joke. So I think it's cool that we all have our different kind of quote unquote areas of expertise.
To be fair though, if it came out eventually that like Barrett had this secret like D&D magic thing going on, I wouldn't be shocked.
No, I would definitely believe that. There's that story that on The Sopranos where David Chase had written something in a script that was some obscure thing, and they were out shooting it, and people, nobody who was in the scene, nobody who was in the area knew what the reference was. So they called David Chase and they said, nobody gets this. Can we cut that and make it something else? And David Chase said, somebody will get it, and then hung up. And basically just said that's the end of that. It doesn't have to be something for everybody. Everybody. It's for a select few people.
It's like the guy with all the starfishes on the beach starts throwing them into the ocean. And the other guy's like, "Why are you doing that? You're not making a difference." And he's like, "I made a difference for that one." You're welcome.
You're welcome.
All right, here's the question this week. Hi, Sins Team, and then in parentheses,
hey.
You're all the A-Team.
Aw, thanks.
I've been a fan of CinemaSins.
Who's Hannibal? Sorry.
Right, exactly. I've been a fan of CinemaSins since the videos were 4 minutes long and Jeremy tortured himself with his version of movie recipes. I love both podcasts and listen to them every week. I have 2 questions in one recommendation, although we're only going to do the first question, which is this. At least for now. Maybe we'll get to the other one later. But this question is, will you start to include writing credits in the comments? I think I have an idea when Dicer is a writer. I'm pretty sure the alliterative sins are his. That is not always true. But not others. It would be cool to see the writers when watching. I wanted to talk about this because we've kind of brushed against this topic. In fact, even today where Chris is talking about, oh, that's a Jeremy joke. Oh, that's a Jeremy joke. It's interesting once you start dividing the jokes by like which member of the team wrote them. And so I was kind of curious like to hear everybody's thoughts on, just the process of should the fans know who wrote every joke? Is that important information? Or is it all just written by CinemaSins? What is the approach on that from the inside? And Chris, I'll let you start just since, you've been doing it since 2012 and kind of have seen the whole evolution.
And also you're the boss.
And you're the boss. So, yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I would care one way or the other. There was a time, probably back in 2014, that I was interested in writing down who did what, because there were so many where it was Jeremy and me, and then there would be just Jeremy on a couple, and then just me on a couple. And I thought it would be interesting to write it out, and then I just lost interest in it. But yeah, I mean, it's something that I wouldn't care. I think if there was enough drive from everybody to put the writers down in the comments, then we can start doing that. Sure, I don't have a problem with it.
What are your thoughts, Danae?
I like the idea of it being a brand, personally. I mean, if you look in the description of the YouTube channel, you'll see the different writers. Their Twitter handles are kind of represented there. So, there is a way to see who's writing for the channel. Mm-hmm. And there is a way to see who's collaborating on the channel. And I understand, I think, the perspective of the person who wrote in is basically to put who wrote, not which joke was whose, but who wrote on that particular script. Because I don't think that it should ever be this one's mine, this one's mine. I mean, if you really want that information, listen to this particular show, and you might kind of hear that, or you can always write in and ask if you're really, really curious. But it's also kind of fun. For example, when I was watching The Dark Crystal, there was a comment made about the Electoral College, and I wrote, that Aaron wrote that one.
I didn't even write on The Dark Crystal. No, I didn't even write on Dark Crystal.
I actually wrote that one today. What did they say about it? Were they in favor of it? They were in favor of it.
They were in, total favor.
Yeah. Hey guys, you gotta represent those small states. You need to include land in all of your voting. By the way.
So it's kind of fun though, because I'm hired as a writer to understand the voice of the narrator and narrate for the brand. However, sometimes my perspective, even as a new person, we just talked about with the bag of holding and things, I can bring something to the table that maybe the narrator would definitely adopt into that mentality, but that's kind of the fun part of it. So I think it's more of a group effort. As much as I joke around about, I want to get credit and I want to have my soapbox moment. I'm totally joking. It's really fun to just write for the brand. That's my opinion.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Jonathan. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I'm with Danae. And I think also every script is so collaborative. I mean, even for instance, Chris and I wrote La Llorona, but other people on the team saw that script before it went to final. And I don't know whether or not Barrett or Jeremy added anything, but they could, or they could suggest that we change something or whatever, and then Chris might do it. So, I mean, it's at the end of the day, I have a hard time remembering what sins I wrote sometimes because things get, intertwined so much and combined and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I think I'm with Danae on that.
I will say that hardly ever is, after it gets past the supervisory stage, does in the example that you provided with Curse of La Llorona, do I send it to Barrett and Jeremy and they add stuff or subtract things? Barrett, just like I do when I get scripts that I wasn't on, will go through and try to find syntax and grammar and things like that. And that's basically it. I remember there are some rare cases where, something comes up where you're not even on that script and you're like, oh, here's a perfect opportunity to do something, even though I wasn't on the script. So occasionally that happens, but most of the time it's either a complete sin removal. Somebody will say, hey, I see something that, this is either repetitive or it's, I just read something that contradicts that. So usually it's just sins getting removed from a script. It's usually not many. So, but yeah, you're right. It is a lot of collaboration going on.
And we haven't even mentioned that there's an editing process as well, and sometimes the editing team will have something that they want to,
For instance, peacock noises. I mean, that was their little addition. Sometimes they'll put in outtakes that you didn't write down because they thought of something, and usually they're really funny. So yeah, occasionally they put their little touches into it.
My favorite example of that was actually the snowman. You wrote that great the bonus round.
Oh yeah.
Was it people looking through windows?
Yeah, looking through windows. Yeah.
And then didn't they added the music and I don't know, they just kind of styled it up some.
Yeah, and I can't remember which song they found, but it was perfect.
Yeah, it was perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that stuff's really cool. I have found, since we've been doing this podcast, a lot of our fans who communicate with us on Discord or email us or whatever, talk about that being one of their favorite parts of the behind the scenes process is knowing who wrote on which script. And I do think maybe that's where it's valuable, is just like, okay, this script was primarily written on by these 2 or 3 people, right? Yeah. But then as you start to break it down past that, I do think it becomes a little bit unimportant because it is such a collaborative process. And I think it's how many times I've written a joke that Barrett has improved or Chris has improved and, given me a another tag that works better, or, you know what I mean? Like, half the jokes are a combo joke. A lot of times, even in the process of editing the script, we'll combine 2 sins into one joke. So yeah, it becomes a little more nebulous once you get past who the official writers were on the script. So as far as on a per joke level, I don't think it's necessary, but it is kind of fun to know, okay, Chris and Jeremy wrote on this one. Danae, did you have something you were going to say?
Nope. I'm on Discord, so I care about the show a lot.
We're doing a podcast here,
I know.
Danae.
I'm sorry. I apologize. It's just there's a lot of exciting things happening. We had a huge reveal on the podcast about what movie we're going to be doing and when, and so I went in and teased it. And Discord's freaking out right now. They're voting on whether or not I spoil part of it. It's this horrible ordeal. I'm sorry.
I wonder if Discord advertises. That might be the perfect advertiser for our podcast.
I will say another thing about this, though, and I'm glad it's brought up in here, is the assumptions people make about which writers wrote what and how often they're wrong. Because I have people come directly to me and say, oh, I know you wrote this one, because they know how much I love puns and wordplay. I'm like, no, you don't understand. We all love puns and wordplay. It's one of those things where I think you get tagged with a certain thing, and then just every joke that's like that, people think you wrote. And often you're going to be wrong on those assumptions. So it's something to remember, at least. Do you guys think-
it's everybody sort of just getting into the vibe of everything. Like, if something is popular, then someone else might have the idea to write a pun in the next one that is similar to the exact one that you wrote or something.
Right.
And it just becomes theirs at that point, and it becomes CinemaSins vernacular.
Yep, and that's kind of the beauty of the collaborative process. So I'm glad you asked the question.
And when we're at Sin Week, you'll find out if we're all actually one person or not. One big puppet. Like a Skeksis,
I can't wait to spring that on people.
We all come out in one uniformed puppet costume.
Oh my god!
Break off.
Oh my god!
That's gonna be fun.
That sounds terrifying, Danae.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be honest.
well,
It very much so does.
Well, okay.
All right, let's move on to Beyond the Sins.
To infinity and beyond!
Somewhere beyond my wild history.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
We're going to chat a little bit about something else from the world of pop culture that we've seen recently. Can be good or bad. Danae, why don't you kick us off?
Oh, no. Well, I also got stuck up on not knowing what to talk about this week. I really wanted to talk about Dark Crystal on Netflix, but I didn't get to completely watch the first episode.
How much did you watch of it, though?
I watched the first 15 minutes, so really didn't
That's
get
not
too
enough,
much.
yeah.
No. And I was really enjoying it, but also kind of surprised at where it was starting in the timeline. I sort of wanted to pick up at the end, but maybe it goes there. I don't know. So I think what I want to do is I'm going to watch that whole series and then I'll talk about it.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I saw people tweeting about they were confused as to where it took place. I haven't watched it yet. But.
Yeah, and maybe you just make an assumption that whenever a show picks up after a movie is released, that it's going to be afterwards. We should know better by now,
right?
So, but like I said, I haven't watched enough of it. I also want to say that I was concerned because I thought that The Dark Crystal was going to be another movie. And so then I saw how many characters are in it. I got really concerned it was going to be terrible because it was going to be too much. But it's a series on Netflix, so it makes far more sense.
Yeah.
I should do more research. So I will talk about that. I know that was something that has been excitement for that personally, but I'm not going to do that today. I'm just going to throw out an app that I've been enjoying called Knights of Pen and Paper. This is a D&D old school pen and paper game where you are kind of like this little 8-bit person and you're sitting at a table and there's a DM and then the background changes to whatever adventure you go on. So, and when you die, you die. I pushed it a little too far. I got into a fight with a swarm of bees that was way too high level, and my characters are dead now, and so I'm having to decide if I'm going to actually spend money to resurrect them or not. But it's fun. It's just like this little just kind of brainless thing that you can kind of do, and I've kind of enjoyed it. So I thought I would just throw that out for the D&D fans today. I also thought about talking about another podcast, but I'm going to listen to it a little longer, see if it continues to be good before I bring that one to the table.
What's the name of the app?
It's called Knights of Pen and Paper.
Knights of Pen and Paper. Jonathan, what you got?
I'm going a little different direction this week. I've been an avid Letterboxd user for the past, 6 or 7 years. And I actually learned about this on Sif Pop a couple years ago. A guest you had mentioned this in the Buried Treasure segment. But this guy, his username on Letterboxd is CineMonster, C-I-N-E Monster. Mm-hmm. And this will be the 6th year he's done this, but he does this social media watch-a-thon for the month of October called Hooptober. I believe he started it maybe when the year Tobe Hooper died. I'm not positive about that, but I think that's kind of where it originates from, which was about 5 years ago. And it starts on September 15th. But essentially what it is he has a set of criteria for movies, and you just use that criteria and you pick out 31 movies to watch in that time frame from September 15th, October 31st. And then he also adds a couple for extra credit if you want to watch 33. And then everybody basically creates their list. They share it. They share the link with him on Letterboxd, and then he'll post everybody's link, so everybody's kind of connected. And then every time you watch a movie, you'll write a little review of what you thought of it, and then you'll tag, Hooptober 6.0 or whatever it is. So it's just kind of this fun social media experience you can have around this time of year. If you like horror movies, or even if you're just curious to get into horror movies, this might be a way for you to kind of discover some things that you've never done before. And like I said, it's actually one of those few things on social media that I found where it's very pleasant and it's very positive, and it's just a couple hundred people just talking about movies for a month and a half.
Very cool.
So if that's something that interests you, I just thought I'd throw that out there. And like I said, I mean, if you're a Letterboxd user, if you look him up, like I said, his name is CineMonster, or if you type in Hooptober, you'll be able to find it. And it just has instructions on what you need to do on your end. But I've done it for 2 years now. I've never completed it. I'm hoping to this year, but I probably won't. But I'm gonna give it my best shot.
Very nice. Hooptober.
That sounds awesome.
I'm going to talk about an app game that just released a new section to it. It's one of my favorites. Danae is all of a sudden excited because I think she knows I'm going to talk about Agent A.
Yay!
Nice.
I love this one. I'm so glad you're going to talk about it.
Agent A is one of my favorite app games. I don't even think there's a free version. I think it is like a $2.99, $3.99 app kind of thing, but it is a lot of fun. It's one of those, I don't know if you would call them escape the room games or just kind of a puzzle game where you have to find objects that do certain things, and sometimes there's paradigm shifts your brain has to make as to how to get the objects, and you kind of observe your environment and find puzzle solutions and that kind of stuff.
It's like those old Space Quest, Police Quest,
yes!
Shadowgate games.
Yes, very much so. And
Police Quest, oh my God.
Leisure Suit Larry.
Yes, of course.
Monkey Island.
Yeah.
Day of the Tentacle was always one of my favorites. Anyways, this is one of those types of games, and the kind of the artistic environment of this world is very cool to me, because a lot of times these games have really trended towards more like scares and horror type games, but this is much more colorful, and it's like almost like a Mission Impossible vibe, like a spy kind of thing going on. And it's really well done. There's humor in it that I think is really great. So they just released Chapter 5, which is the final chapter. It's actually called the final chapter.
No, it can't end. It's so good.
Well, I think what they'll probably do is they'll probably make a new one.
Like a new app?
Like a new game. Yeah. Based on this one, but it closes up the story really nicely. The story is fun and interesting. I actually played the entirety of Chapter 5 over the weekend because I had a lot of driving that I was doing. I shouldn't say I was doing the driving. I was doing the writing. Somebody else was doing the driving. So it's a lot of fun, and if you enjoy those kind of puzzle games, I would definitely recommend it. It's called Agent A, and there are 5 chapters, and every chapter is a blast. So, yeah.
Nice.
Good stuff. Danae, have you played Chapter 5 yet?
No, I haven't played it yet, but it reminds me of The Room. But when the Room, they just release a new app every time, so I wonder if that's what the company will end up doing. It's so smart and so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a good recommendation.
Agent A. All right, Chris, what do you got?
I read the book Best Movie Year Ever, which is about 1999.
Yeah.
Oh, I have that on my Kindle. I have not read it yet.
It's awesome because 1999 was the year that so many of the movies that we refer to fondly are come from that year. You have The Matrix, you have Eyes Wide Shut, Magnolia, and a million others that I'm just blanking on right now, but Fight Club. He goes through, chapter by chapter, the stories of these movies. He doesn't go super in depth, but he does talk about some of the behind the scenes of how those movies were made and some of the things that they had to go through. Blair Witch Project has some really interesting things in it too. But if 1999 is your jam, this book reads really easily. I got it done in no time. When I first got it, I had a lot of stuff to do, so I wasn't. But I still got to 100 pages, and then in the next 2 days, once I got done with all the stuff I needed to get done, I just ripped through it. It's that type of book. And if you're a big movie fan, if you're a big 1999 person, this just sort of took me back. 1999 was the year that I went to Hollywood 27. I met Jeremy at Hollywood 27. A lot of these movies that they're talking about were movies that we watched, at the time and everything. And I remember just Hollywood 27 stories, from some of these movies. And everything, so it was a good nostalgia rip. But I always find it interesting to read some of the things, the behind the scenes things that are going on in some of your favorite movies, and this book does a really good job of it.
The author's name is Brian Raftery, and I heard him on a podcast talking about his process of writing this book. And found a lot of his stories interesting, especially the stories about how he decided which movies to include, which not to include. And, he fully admits that there are some movies that a lot of people love from 1999 that he didn't even really include in the book. And, and a lot of it had to do with the availability of the people involved in those projects. And
I imagine, because I feel like he really wanted to talk about South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut a little bit more. I got that sense throughout the entire book, and I was like, I bet Trey Parker and Matt Stone just did not, want to say anything about it at all. And of course I've heard them already in one of the South Park episode commentaries saying that they barely even remember making that movie now. And that looking back on it now, it's really weird looking back on it because there's so many things they wouldn't have done and everything. But yeah, I got the sense of that, especially when he was talking about the MPAA and Boys Don't Cry and everything, because South Park was a big movie that had just come through the MPAA, and MPAA already had some, they were worried about what they were putting out there. And Boys Don't Cry, which didn't really have anything that horrible in it, but they you know how they are, man. You know how the MPAA is.
Yeah.
They're super hypocritical about the things that they decide are too much and give movies a harsher NC-17 rating for than something that has way worse stuff in it and everything. But I had the inclination that was one he really wanted to talk about.
I could be wrong, but I think I do remember in the podcast him mentioning he couldn't get interviews with Trey and Matt, and that was kind of a bummer for him. But he was also talking in that podcast about how surprised he was by how much people did want to talk about their movies from 1999. Like the amount of interviews he was able to do with huge directors and actors. He was really surprised that they wanted to do that. So yeah, I'm glad to hear the book came out really well.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's one of those that I would read a chapter and I would be like, okay, well, it wouldn't hurt to read another one, and it wouldn't hurt to read another one. It's kind of like reading articles, really. You don't think of it as a book anymore after a while, and you just go through each chapter as like it's an article on the internet. It's like if you're going on the internet, you probably read a whole book sometimes on the internet and don't even think about it.
Yeah.
And that's what this was like. So really fun. A lot of movies in here that just interesting how they were made and how they were marketed and how what the directors wanted to do as opposed to what they ended up doing, and so on and so forth.
Yep, that's Brian Raftery, best movie year ever, how 1999.
Is it Raftery or is it Rafferty?
It's Raftery.
Raftery. So the T comes first.
The T comes first.
Is it like a round T or a flat T?
It's an herbal tea.
It's an herbal tea. Yes.
Yes, it is called Best Movie Year Ever, how 1999 blew up the big screen. Very, very cool. Well, guys.
We did
Everybody
it.
good? Everybody feel good about the podcast?
I mean, I forgot that I forgot what I was going to do my Beyond the Sins about because I couldn't find my notes.
Oh.
So I'm a little mad at myself because I was going to I'll have to do it next week, I guess.
Yeah. You were going to do a little log rolling.
No, I'm going to be gone next week.
Well, so you say.
No, I really am going to be. It's our family vacation. We had better be able to go to Florida.
We'll see. I guess you'll have to hold it for 2 weeks.
No, that's so hard. I get so backed up.
All right, that's going to do it for Behind the Scenes this week. Don't forget to make sure you're subscribed and go ahead and leave a comment or rating for us as well. We would love that. Hang out with us on Twitter. I'm at Aaron Dicer. She is at Danae Says. He is at Sam Loomis 13. Also, if you want to connect with Chris, I believe, Chris, you hang out at the Facebook fan page.
Yeah, the Sincast presented by CinemaSins. I'm also on the Discord every once in a while. I will address things occasionally on that, especially if I am included in the tag. I can find where I'm being addressed and everything. That's an important thing if you want to talk to me. Those are the two things where I'm at.
So for Jonathan Watkins, Danae Hughes, and myself, we'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening. Send any feedback to behindthesinspod@gmail.com and be sure to subscribe or message us at Twitter. And be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
The recording has begun.
No, it hasn't. I don't see anything. You're a liar. Why you gotta lie like that? Why you gotta say all the things that are lies?
There it is.
Oh, maybe I should just believe you.
Yeah, I think that's the lesson we all need to learn. Just believe Aaron. Everything he says.
Believe in Aaron. Maybe we should start a series of stickers, and one will be Believe in Aaron, and then the other one will be like Free Danae.
Yeah. All right, let's see if we can get everybody on the horn.
Today I used tweezers to pick plaque out of my teeth.
Welcome to Admissions with Danae.
It was oddly satisfying. Who are we calling today?
Chris.
Oh, I thought it was Barrett today.
It doesn't surprise me.
What do you think people want us to talk about as far as advertising? Like, what's the behind the scenes perfect advertiser?
I don't know.
Clorox wet wipes.
Yeah.
It should be an underwear company, right?
Yes.
Whiteout.
Mm-hmm.
Whiteout underwear.
Who is it that invented whiteout? Was it Peter Dolan's? Somebody from the Monkees' mom invented whiteout.
How do you remember these things?
That's just a funny little fact.
Her name is Bette Nesmith Graham.
Yep, Mike Nesmith's mom.
Okay.
From the Monkees.
Well, there you go.
I don't know why that stuff sticks in my brain. I don't understand it. I don't know, but I thought it was hilarious that one of the guys from the Monkees' mom invented whiteout. I thought that was hilarious.
I just feel like because I can't remember so much, like I feel like I'm maybe in like early onset of Alzheimer's or something. Like my brain is just deficient.
You're just a mom.
I'm screwed.
I hear this from moms all the time.
Yeah, that's right. I was smart before I had a kid, right?
Yes.
You were there.
How you feeling temperature-wise, Danae?
Shut up. Are you about to turn the AC on?
I'm so hot.
Okay, let me go grab I don't know. Do you have one of those Snuggies laying around? No, I'm fine if you need to put the AC on.
All right, cool.
Literally. Are you guys excited about today's show? Huh? Are you? Oh, are you so pumped?
Yes.
I can tell.
Isn't today a holiday?
Mm-hmm.
We're all sitting here working.
It's the day we're not supposed to be working.
Is this work?
Yeah, that's what kills me about these type of holidays is, I'm always sort of on holiday, I guess, considering what we do. So when there's a day where everybody's off, it's kind of annoying.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's a good point. The movie that shows the pronoun game is so popular you can name an entire movie franchise after it.
Yep.
Literally.
Yeah.
It was doing that before the pronoun game.
That's right.
And it's not a game, okay? It's real life.
Yeah. Yeah.
The podcast conference that I went to, when you went in, you got your lanyard that has your name on it and everything, and the whatever podcast you're on or whatever.
And also preferred pronoun.
And you had a little preferred pronoun pin that you could put on there. So if you wanted to be called the, they, them, you actually had one that was blank. You could fill it out yourself. You could put robot if you wanted to. Or meow meow.
I've always wanted to be a robot.
Meow meow feels a little more like an onomatopoeia than a pronoun.
Hey, listen. But a girl can dream. So Aaron was totally unprepared for today's show. He has no plan going into today. I just want to let you guys know I've been watching him the whole entire time. He came in 2 minutes before 10 and was like, I have no plan. We're screwed.
Sounds just like me.
This is going to be a 12-hour podcast. I just want to we're going to have bathroom breaks. We're going to have food breaks. But are
you saying because you think I'm unprepared, all of a sudden you're in charge?
That's right.
Is that what you're saying?
It defaults to me. That's the rule.
I don't know. I think as far as seniority goes.
No, she goes to Jonathan. All right, Jonathan, lead on.
We got Chris on the show.
That's true. Oh,
Chris runs a podcast every week.
Okay, man, you're in charge. Lead on.
Yeah, about that.
I was listening to a podcast this week, and I wish I could remember. I'm trying to rack my brain. I cannot remember who it was, but it was somebody who's known for great content. Like, they put out great stuff. They're not controversial, nothing like that. And they were talking about the haters that they have that just don't understand them and will pop up on social media or YouTube or whatever and completely misrepresent them. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, if this person has haters, then it makes sense that anybody who is popular in any way whatsoever is going to have people who want to, quote unquote, bring them down to size and are going to find ways to hate on them.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just kind of an unfortunate part of, it is the unfortunate part of the fact that we can all instantly communicate with each other, right?
Yeah.
There are positives to that. There are beautiful things about that, but there are negatives as well, and that's one of them.
You could also say it like, the hater's going to hate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know how behind our music from behind is really insane and kind of over the top.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'd be kind of funny to meet the team or meet CinemaSins, and it was just this wacky thing where Jeremy is actually an alien, and Chris maybe you're some old lady.
Oh yeah.
Something really nuts.
You just open up a closet and one of us is behind it, and we averse to light, and we screech when the light comes.
What I've discovered is when you start to have to explain the joke becomes less funny.
Yeah,
if people are pretending like they don't get it, they're just either being obstinate or they're being dumb. One of the two.
Or they just didn't get it.
Right.
And they were so brave to put it out publicly.
Yes, they were.
So, good on you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Hey, guys, you guys sound really weird.
Did it just change?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, can you guys hear us?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear us?
I don't think you can hear us.
No.
No, I don't think they can hear us at all.
We can.
Here, I'm going to tweet him.
Hold on, I'll be text Aaron.
Oh, I wonder what's happening.
I don't know.
It's the storm. It's the storm, Aaron. Oh, I just distorted really bad. Did you hear that?
Mm-hmm, I did.
Yeah, you guys are sounding very robotic.
Oh, I totally forgot music from behind. My bad. We'll go back to that. Reverse. Back to it.
Beep.
Let's
beep, beep, beep. Okay, go ahead.
All right. I just need a clean edit point. That's all.
Oh. Beep. Oh, I was going to try to mess you up again, but you knew I was going to do that.
Yeah, I can usually wait you out. The amount of research sometimes you have to do, especially with timeline stuff. I'm dreading Endgame for this reason. Like the idea of, having to go back and watch, the Captain America movie that this happened in and go back and watch the Iron Man movie that this happened in. It's just there's...
Oh, I got it. For some reason, Jeremy has a head injury and he has amnesia and he watches it without any previous knowledge.
Yeah.
That's the only way to make it work, right?
The narrator.
That's what I mean. That's what I'm talking about.
The narrator, Jeremy.
Yeah, I guess I should always say.
The Gerator.
The Gerator.
The narrator? By the way, Aaron, this is very well may be cut, so
okay.
I want to ask this question of Danae.
Oh, sure. Yay. I love this so much. Yes, I have boobs.
Oh, okay. Well, then, my second question is... Okay.
But then Aaron talks about eating in the shower and not wearing underwear.
Well, why would you wear underwear in the shower? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
That's a good point. The way I phrased that made no sense.
It was kind of neat, though, because then the conversation sort of evolved on Discord about loving our bodies and how weird it is. And one person actually made a comment that there are gross bodies. And I was like, I totally disagree with you. No body is gross. Like, every single body is a piece of art. And they're like, well, I guess I can't really argue with you. So I like that kind of...
Yeah.
It's been really positive.
I don't know, man. Chamberlain and Dark Crystal. That's pretty rough.